a distinguished professor at the Division of Yoga Spirituality as Vyasa, Deemed University, Bangalore, specializing in yoga text, Sanskrita, and traditional research methodology. He earned his PhD in Sanskrit from the University of Madras, focusing on the doctrine of the Tantrayukti. Dr. Jayaraman has held key positions such as Director of Textual Research, Yoga at Indic Academy, Director of Research at Krishna Macharya Yoga Mandiram, and has contributed significantly to institutions like Sastra University in Thanjavur and Veda Vijnana Gurukulam in Bengaluru early in his career. Nominated to prestigious committees and empaneled as an external expert for the World Health Organization sponsored project on standardization of yoga terminologies. He has authored several books including Ayurveda, Shatmanam and Patanjali Charitam, and has over 69 publications to his credit. Recognized as a research supervisor, Dr. Jayaraman has received notable awards including the Sanskrita Grantha Puraskara from Karnataka Sanskrit University in 2019. His expertise extends to delivering invited lectures in Indian research methodology in national and international seminars. So, sir, I welcome you to the stage.
I thank Professor Prasad sir for the invitation and to deliver this talk, a subject close to my heart for a decade. And I would like to remark that the very first talk on Tantrayukti I gave was also from the same podium, that is from Hyderabad University, again from the Sanskrita division, somewhere back in 2010-2011. So hence it's a kind of homecoming for me to deliver the talk once again on Tantrayukti. I hope that I have improved more on, so it has not stagnated where it was in 2011. So let me commence with the two anecdotes from the Upanishads, because Upanishads are the fountainhead of our knowledge. It was stated by Swami Vivekananda himself that any knowledge, be it even the heterodox Buddhism, so it finds its origins in the Upanishads only. So even our research methodology, the spirit for research methodology, spirit for Indian research methodology, that is the quest, Bharatiya Anusandhana Paddhati. So the spirit for Indian research methodology also finds its origins from the Upanishads. It's not an exaggeration if I say that. As was discussed in the previous session, in research, of course, the subject is important. Subject doesn't exist in the space. Subject exists with the researcher and also the guide. So, or the one who is mentoring that person. So I'll just give two anecdotes as to how they were in pursuit of knowledge, how very sincere and serious was the approach, which set the intellectual climate or the mental climate for the later emergence of knowledge. See, again, this mental climate is not my terminology. Swami Ranganathananda, some of you may have heard him. He's a great exponent on Vedanta from the Ramakrishna Math. So he has written a lot of texts, especially the message of the Upanishads. It's a book worth pursuing by every researcher, every one who is setting out to learn about Indian knowledge systems. The message of Upanishads by Swami Ranganathananda, I would recommend. So he uses the terminology mental climate. So the mental climate for all later research pursuits was set by the Upanishads. So let me give just two anecdotes. One thing is about Tattvamasi, which was being discussed in the previous session. And there was also a question of repetition. So, Avritti. So there what happens is, this boy Shvetaketu comes back and he just stabdha anuchanamani eyaya. He just comes back. So he went late to the Gurukula at 12 years. Normally at the age of 8, one is expected to be inside the Gurukula. So his father, because of his preoccupations, he sent him to the Gurukula only at the age of 12. And he studied for 12 years and came back when he was 24. When he came back at 24, the Upanishad describes him as Anuchanamani Stabdhaha Eyaya. Eyaya, he came back as Anuchanamani. I am the one who is upholding the eternal tradition of the Vedas. Now I have learnt. See, if it is not for me, then who is going to take forward the tradition of Veda? With that sense of dharana, he came back. And then Stabdhaha. Stabdhaha means Shathaha, Apranata Swabhavaha. That's how Shankaracharya puts. Means the one who will not bend. Learn something new. Okay, sir, I don't know, I will learn. No, I know. See, you probably didn't tell me properly. That is the approach, intellectual stiffness. So with an intellectual stiffness, he came back. So then the father asks various questions and slowly brings him to track. In that conversation only between Shvetaketu and Aruni, you have the description, Aitadatma vidam sarvam tatsatyam sa atma tattvamasi Shvetaketu. So that's where the first time Tattvamasi is taught. You are that principle about which the discussion is about, that Atma Tattva. Now the Avrutti comes from the student. He says, Bhuya eva ma Bhagavan Vijñapayatu. When he says Tattvamasi, father says, you are that principle, you are that Atman, Paramatman, Atman, everything is you, that Aikya is you, in you you find it. Then he says, Shvetaketu says, Bhuya eva ma Bhagavan Vijñapayatu. Oh Lord, please teach me about this once again. So then that father, he gives the answer in a particular way. So he takes various examples to prove that you are that ultimate principle. But Sati Sampadya na viduhu Sati Sampadyamaha iti. Means we are one with that Paramatman, but we don't realize. Just like he gives the example, bring water, add salt. So do you initially, before adding the salt, do you see water and salt separately? Yes, father. Now add salt. Yes, I have added. Now stir it well. Yes, father. Now do you see the salt separate from the water? No, father. It is in the same way. You and the Paramatman are one and the same. After teaching this, again Shvetaketu says, Bhuya eva ma Bhagavan Vijñapayatu. Again teach me about Tattvamasi. And then he says that, okay, see, the answers are so beautiful in that portion that now go to the banyan tree. You are seeing the banyan tree? See, as was mentioned, the teaching did not happen within the four walls. So go to the banyan tree. Yes, sir. Bring some seeds. Many of you might have heard about it. Break open, break open, break open. Finally, do you see anything? No. See, though we don't perceive, don't come to initially, if you don't perceive a thing, don't get disgruntled or kind of disappointed or discouraged that principle, or kind of don't jump into a conclusion that such a principle does not exist. Shraddhatsva Saumya. Have some faith. See, whatever I speak based on my experience. Have some faith, persevere, you will certainly see that. So in this, again, Shvetaketu does not end there. Bhuya eva ma Bhagavan Vijñapayatu. In this way, for 9 times there is avritti from the student of the self-same question, but there is no avritti from the teacher. Every time he gives a different approach, a different answer, different illustration, and then he teaches the same principle. So this was the spirit of the guide. So that set the intellectual climate. Now let's see the spirit of the student. How was it? This is from Prashnopanishad, where, so the former was from the Chandogya Upanishad. This is from the Prashnopanishad. 6 students. They are not students actually. They themselves are professors, scholars, knowledgeable. Te haite brahmapara, brahmanishtha, param brahmanveshamanaha. That's how the Upanishad describes. They themselves are established in Brahman. Param brahma anveshamana. They are in the serious pursuit of the knowledge of Brahman, such people. 6 of them. But they have certain serious naughty, N-A-U-G-H-T-Y, no, K-N-O, TTY, that naughty questions. They have such granthilaha prashnaha. So such naughty questions they have in their mind. They 6 of them join together under the leadership of Sukesha, and then they go to sage Pippalada. Sukesha waits for his opportunity, and then he finally asks his question. He allows others to ask the question, though he is the leader. How do I know that he is the leader? Because the very Upanishad starts with the Sukesha, Bharadwajaha, Shaibhyascha Satyakamaha, Kausalyascha Ashwalayanaha. So the Upanishad itself presents Sukesha as the first person while enumerating the list of 6 students, but Sukesha asks the question at the last. And his question was also very serious about the Atman. So before placing his question, Sukesha gives a background to his question. See, Sukesha is now a seeker. So he gives a background to his question that Hiranyanabhaha Rajaputraha Mamupetya Enam Prashnam Aprichyata. There was one prince who was called as Hiranyanabha. I was sitting in my ashrama, Sukesha says. I was sitting in my place. Then one prince, Hiranyanabha, he came riding in his chariot. All this is there in the Upanishad. He came and asked me a question. Shodasha Kala Purusham Vetha. Do you know about the Purusha or the consciousness of 16 aspects? The consciousness with 16 aspects, do you know? He asked. Then I told. So all this is being reported to sage Pippalada. So Sukesha is giving the background of his question. So he says that Nahamimam Veda. Sukesha says, Oh Rajaputra Hiranyanabha, I do not know about the Shodasha Kala Purusha that you are asking about. Then what did Hiranyanabha do? He simply is staring in disbelief. So then Sukesha says that Nahamimam Vedas. He has to emphasize that, and he says Nahamimam Veda Yadyahamimam Avedisham Katham Tena Avakshyam. See, don't stare me in disbelief. I really do not know about the subject. If I had known the subject, why would I not share that knowledge with you? Samulova Yesha Parishushyati Yonritam Abhivadati Tasman Narhami Anritam Vaktum. A teacher who knows and shares not will dry from the root. Samulaha Parishusyati. Parishusyati means dries. What is the teacher drying from the root? What is the rasa that the teacher has which will dry out? Knowledge. So a teacher, yes, the rasa, the essence that the teacher has is knowledge. So how will it dry out? The more I suppress the knowledge with me out of bias, no, I will not tell it to her. I will not tell it to him. I will just suppress this knowledge. No, that person, he disrespected me. No, I will not share. If a teacher keeps on suppressing the knowledge, his knowledge will one day or the other will dissipate. It will vanish. It will get dissolved. It will be forgotten. So hence I am very well aware of this. Oh Hiranyanabha, when you are asking about this, I really do not know. So then Rajakumaraha Tushnim Ratham Aruhya Pravavraja. He silently goes out, climbs into his chariot, and then he went away in disappointment. Then I somehow managed a student and sent him away. Now let me take my Facebook and then browse. Did Sukesha do that? No, Sukesha did not do that. Acharya Shankara, while commenting upon it, he says, Anuttaritaha saha prashnaha, I am paraphrasing this. So, Hridi shalyamiva aviddham means that question which was not answered was like a thorn pricking in the heart. So that was a thorn. So just like some thorn is pricking in our feet, until we get rid of it, we are not at peace. Swasthata will not be there. We will not feel at peace. Similarly, Sukesha, the inquirer, had the thorn in his heart of unanswered question. So with that urge, with that impatience, or with that kind of pain in his heart, Sukesha comes and then asks the question to sage Pippalada. So this is the urge of the seeker portrayed in the Upanishads. Earlier we saw the patience or the multiple approach or the different approaches that a teacher had in guiding the student. So such was the intellectual climate which gave rise to what we now confidently are running a workshop on Indian research methodology. It has its origins in the Upanishads because such was the intellectual climate created, and that was a very strong foundation. Based on this, all the Shastras, all the disciplines emerged. So there is no doubt about the concept that there is a Bharatiya Anusandhana Paddhati. And one important cog in that wheel of Bharatiya Anusandhana Paddhati is Tantrayukti. So actually, when I was starting my PhD thesis, I started with the Upanishads only. I was a student of Prasthanatraya in the Gurukula Paddhati. I was inspired by this Upanishadic conversation, so I thought I should do something about this. I learnt under the traditional Gurukula system with this thing. Then I was discussing with a scholar, Dr. Jayaraman, who is a great researcher in the field of Saraswati Nadi civilization. So he said, okay, many people have written about the Upanishads. Another dimension of Upanishads is the Tantrayukti. While Upanishads give the intellectual foundations or the inspiration, etc., Tantrayukti is the meticulous devices and documents which help shape a thesis, structure a thesis, and then manifest a thesis. So why don't you work on that? So that inspiration from so Tantrayukti, my personal journey into Tantrayukti also started from the Upanishads. Conceptually, historically and factually also, Tantrayukti has its origins in the Upanishads only. So it is also an Arsha Parampara only that we have in the form of Tantrayukti. Now, so I just structured my talk in whatever time available. I have 3 parts. Let me see how far I can cover. One thing is, what is currently the structure of thesis writing in Indological studies, which is prescribed, which can be applied, means some variations will be there in other subjects also, and that we will know. And then an art, and then is there a unified methodology which conveys the essence of thesis construction, which is obvious. The answer is Tantrayukti. And then of course summary and conclusions. So I just took one example. Normally, as I saw in the Kanchipuram, I am from Chennai, originally from. So the nearest university, of course, Madras University is there. Of course, in Kanchipuram University, I just looked at their research methodology, this thing. So there we see 3 papers, research methodology 1, research methodology 2, and research methodology 3 papers are there. One is about research methodology as such. Second is about the Samskrita subject in which this Indological studies are happening. And then of course, and then about the specific Shastra a student wants to pursue his study about. So let us not worry about paper 2 or paper 3. Paper 1 is the focus, that is research methodology as such, not specific only to the field of Samskrita. So you can see in their RM1 paper, you can see it is of 5 units. So one is, the fundamentals of research, meaning and characteristics of research, research methodology, aim and scope of research, motivation. Most of you would have gone through all these things, I hope. So and then second is qualification of a researcher, basic qualities, specialization, proficiency, command over language, selection of a topic, importance and utility of synopsis, so on and so forth, blah blah. And then type 3, unit 3 is, you can see types of research, historical, critical, experimental, interdisciplinary, comparative, and so on and so forth. And unit, I'm just setting my base. I'm not reading it out. I am reading it out for a specific purpose. And unit 4, again, tools of research, history, dictionary, encyclopedia, bibliography, etc. And finally, presentation of a research, where collection, classification, preface, acknowledgement, introduction, abbreviation, table of contents, and so on and so forth. So this is the typical, there may be certain variations, improvements, improvisation in other university syllabus also, but basically these are the aspects which are described in. So if you have to summarize this, to bring it to Tantrayukti, you have to summarize it. You have to understand the Atma or the heart of the research methodology. So in the unit 1, if you have to summarize, it is fundamentals of research, which basically contributes to the content. And then as my observation, unit 2 is qualification of the researcher, means how the researcher should express, what should be the language. And then types of research again contributes to the content of his research, and then tools of research has elements of content and structure of a given thesis, and then finally presentation of a research, fifth unit, generally conveys about the how structured the thesis should be. So basically, from the 5 units, 3 themes emerge, that is content, structure, language. So in any given research, when you speak about research methodology, basically you should concentrate on what is your original content that you are contributing, and then how beautifully or how aptly or how tightly you have packed your thesis, and then what kind of language, how refined your language is. So these are the 3 dimensions or the take homes from these. So then if you are looking for Indian or Bharatiya parallel for research methodology, then you have to look for ideas on creating original content and structuring, and then the language. So if these 3 dimensions are covered, then we can say it is a reasonably comprehensive manual of research methodology. So this is the premise that we are slowly building up towards Tantrayukti. Now, do we have parallels in the Vedic Indian Hindu Sanatana Dharma tradition? So where there are so many ideas. So from the genesis to the evaluation or the evolution of the thesis, there are so many scattered hints across the Bharatiya Shastriya Vangmaya. So right from that's why I would say always from thought to thesis, there are so many hints that are given. See, because any knowledge starts with a thought. Means someone was sitting under a tree, something fell on his head. Who was the one? Newton was sitting and then something fell on his head. Suddenly he got a thought and then started working, and then gravity emerged. So in this way, everything starts with an event, a thought, a vritti. So similarly, so there is ideas about thought. Pancha vrittayaha, pramana viparya, vikalpa nidra smritayaha. There is thought about thought. How many classifications of thought are there? And then after thought comes the question, means I have an initial spark. I have to systematically question that. So then, what is question, what is answer? That itself has a lot of description in our Shastra. So for thought, you have the Yoga Sutra as the source. For question, you have to run to Nyaya Siddhanta Manjari or Gadadhari or Yoga Yajnavalkya Smriti, where what is the ideal question, what is the ideal answer, Pakshasya Vyapakam Saram Asandigdham Anakulam Avyakhya Gamyam Ityetad Uttaram Tadvido Viduhu. Whatever answer is being given, it should cover all the aspects of the question, and then Asandigdham, it should not be, means again it should not lead to a rejoinder question. If a question is asked, answer is given, the person should sit down, and again he should not get up. So, Pakshasya Vyapakam Saram Asandigdham Anakulam, and it should not be mixed up. First what has to be stated should not be stated later, and all those things. Avyakhya Gamyam. The second person should not give an explanation to the answer given. Avyakhya Gamyam Ityetad Uttaram Tadvido Vidu. So there are, thought, then question, again for question also we have so many words, prashnaha, pricha, jignasa, each of it has been defined. I am not going into it. I usually do a workshop on all these things which takes 15 hours. Whatever is spoken in 15 hours, I am trying to condense in 1 hour. So it will be a bit fast, but I think if you follow the flow, you will be with me. So, and then after that you have initial thought, initial question and answers, then you will slowly, the area starts emerging, and then you will be defining the area of work, avyapti, ativyapti, asambhava, or the tools. In that I am not elaborating about this. So for that you have to run to Tarka Bhasha. So for thought, Yoga Sutra. For question and answer, you have to go to Yajnavalkya Smriti or Gadadhari or some other text. Nyaya Shastra you have to go. Then Tarka Bhasha. And then logically develop a research question to solution. Madam mentioned in the previous talk about Pratigna Hetu Udaharana, 5-step syllogism. Pratigna Hetu Udaharana Upanaya Nigamanam. So, Parartha Anumanam. So, how are you convincing the others by your systematic exposition? So, that is there. So, and then slowly the thesis develops, and then you have to put your thought, knowledge that has emerged into a particular structure. For that there is Adhikarana Lakshanam. What is how to start a particular chapter, how to end a particular chapter, what are the hints therein, So Mimamsa, you have to go to Mimamsa Shastra for that, for Adhikarana Lakshanam. And then again, how to convey one theme as pervading the entire thesis. For that you have the Tatparya Nirnayaka Lingas, where you have Upakrama Upasamhara, Abhyaso Purvata Phalam, Arthavadaha Upapatti. So again a set of 5 tools are there, where you uniformly convey the same idea across the given text. So and then finally, diction. What kind of language you should use. For that hints can be derived from Sutra, Bhashya and the Vartika Lakshana, Alpaksharam, Asandigdham, brief, it should be there. And then Asandigdham, there should be no doubt in the language. So all these hints are there. What I am trying to convey is that when you analyze all these things, of course all these hints which are just sampled, I don't say that this is the be all and end all of all the ideas scattered across the disciplines, or the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas are there, 18 disciplines of traditional knowledge is there. This is not the sum and substance of all of it. These are a few hints, which itself shows there are scattered hints across the literature, which gives a lot of potential for so many research papers, theses, etc. So, it is scattered across the literature about content, structure and language. So, we started out with content, structure and language for any given thesis. So, for defining or understanding the content, structure and language, to get an orientation about it, you have all these hints. For that you have to go to each of the Shastra and then study and understand the context in which it is presented. So then the logical next question is there one stop shop? Can I go to one supermarket where I will get all the ideas about, or at least a reasonable hint or guideline or margadarshana, orientation for content, structure and language dimension of a thesis construction? So then the one stop shop is Tantrayukti. That's where we are coming. Now let us go to one Dr. W.K. Lele, who is a very prominent scholar who started out the research on Tantrayukti basically in a very, very serious manner. So he asked a few questions for which the answer is Tantrayukti. Had the ancient Indians conceived a form of scientific composition? Had they developed a method of treatment of the scientific subject in an orderly manner? Did they expound all the aspects of the given subject, or they confined their discussion to a few of them only? Did they reproduce the views of the past and or the contemporary thinkers? What was their mode of making cross-references? What style did they resort to establish their new thoughts and theories? Did the idea of rendering the subject matter intelligible as well as enjoyable ever strike them? Had the ancient Indian intellectuals devised any methodology of writing scientific works? So again, if you deconstruct or kind of go into the meta details of these questions are also about content, structure and language. So in our thesis, whichever subject you are writing about, the basic focus should be content, structure, language. So how is my content? How is the structure? Have I structured it properly? And how is the language? So did the ancient Indians do any job in this direction? So that is the question which is answered ably by the word Tantrayukti. So Tantrayukti, it's again not an exaggerated claim. Means Tantrayukti is a very beautiful plastic document. What is plastic? Or rather you can use the word elastic documentation. What is elastic? Elastic can be stretched. Plastic is also used sometimes in the same sense, which means Tantrayukti gives a particular framework within which you can accommodate any new ideas. It is not rigid. Tantre samasa vyasokte bhavantyetahi kritsnashah ekadeshena drishyante samasabhihite tatha. This Charaka says that in a text which is in the form of a sutra and bhashya, samasa vyasa, there all the aspects of Tantrayukti, more and more aspects of more and more devices on content, structure, language can be incorporated. If the text itself is a very brief text, ekadeshena drishyante samasabhihite tatha. So it can be tailor-made. So depending upon the nature of the subject, Tantrayuktis can be tailor-made. In the sense, when I say you can, it's an all-stop shop. When I said that, it's not a very high claim, but the idea is that it is elastic to accommodate so many ideas that, oh, this is not there in Tantrayukti. If you say the very nature of the document is, if you point out something is not there in Tantrayukti, please include in Tantrayukti. So in that sense, Tantrayukti is comprehensive. It is made in such a manner that it accommodates later thought, addition, development also. Such is the beauty of that document. Okay. Now let us get into the word Tantra and Yukti. In most of our regional languages, the word Tantrayukti means a cunning strategy. That is the meaning that you get. But what is the technical meaning that you can see? Before that, when we say that Tantrayukti is a scientific research methodology, etc., am I saying it for the first time? Or chronologically looking back, it has been noted as a scientific, theoretical text construction methodology since the beginning of the 20th century. Even before that it existed, but we are all we are learning Sanskrita through English. So we need some English references. So I am giving it for you. So you can see Shama Shastri, who for the first time translated Kautilya Arthashastra into English. So he renders Tantrayukti. Tantrayukti is the last chapter of Kautilya Arthashastra. So he says Tantrayukti is plan of a treatise. And then later, see, you can see the chronological movement. Then Vidyabhushana says forms of scientific argument. See, these are all not my words. These are all the words which are pre-existing about the doctrine of Tantrayukti by much acclaimed, respected scholars. And then later you see Gerhard Oberhammer, a German, again, a foreign reference. So he says formal elements which gave form to a scientific work. He says that. And then N.E. Muthuswami on his Tantrayukti Vichara text published from Kerala, he says that methodology and technique which enabled one to compose and interpret scientific treatises correctly and intelligently. And then, see, this word intelligently is very interesting. Research is not a boring job. Means how intelligently you can write. To see, the more intelligence you apply and employ, it will be appreciated. So it's a very interesting job. And Tantrayukti ably helps you in that. So it's not a dull, boring job. So if you take it that way, perspective only. Perspective matters. And Esther Solomon, in her work on Indian dialectics, she says, method of treatment, maxims for the interpretation of textual topics. And then Lele, he says, methodology of theoretico-scientific treatises in Sanskrit. All this is about Tantrayukti. So again we should. And then Satish Chandra Mittal says an expedient in the writing of science. Science in this sense means any systematic body of knowledge. So that is the science he is referring to. And then K.V. Sharma, another acclaimed scholar of our recent times, whom I had the opportunity to meet in his very old age. He passed away. Methodology in Sanskrit texts on science. So in this way, chronologically, see, we started out from 1909. And then, so till 2006, we see how Tantrayukti have all along been noted as a methodology of writing science. While it has been noted for a century, more than a century, now we are thinking about Indian research methodology. This shows the apathy, ignorance, or keeping it mindfully or willfully, wantonly away. So when such a wonderful document, both Indian and Western scholars, they have all appreciated this document, or kind of, they are lauded, or they are very sure about what this document contains. Now, going back to where we started out, what is Tantra and what is Yukti? In Tantrayukti. So not in the normal sense it has to be taken. Tantra is defined in the Ajitagama as Tanoti Vipulan Arthan Tattva Mantra Samanvitan Tranancha Kurute Asmat Tantram ityabhidhiyate tanoti vipulan arthan. That in which vipula, in plenty, artha, subjects are there. There in which in plenty lots of topics are discussed. And then what is the nature of the topic which is discussed in plenty? Tattva and mantra. It has certain fundamental principles. Tattvam, tasya bhavaha tattvam. Tattvam and satyam are synonymous. What is its real nature? What is the truth? So that is a tattva. And mantra here means matri gupta bhashane. It is derived from the truth, which involves a lot of advice. Mantra not essentially means, of course, in the context of Tantra Shastra, it is mantra means the sacred utterances. Mantra, that's why you call a minister as a mantri. Why is he a mantri? Does he chant mantras in the presence of the king? No. Matri Gupta Bhashane means he gives certain confidential inputs only to the ears of the king. So he is mantri. So mantra can be equally interpreted as certain very well considered inputs. So mantri always thinks a lot. Or the king always delegates to the mantri certain serious evaluation. You evaluate and come back and tell me. So mantra. So in what is tantra? Tantra discusses about subjects in plenty and are widely, it covers a lot of topics, and then which are of the nature of exploring truth, tattva. Mantra, which includes very considered output. So whatever the mantri tells to the king, what kind of data will he mislead? Does he have the audacity to mislead the king? Then his head will be gone. So hence whatever he gives, it's a very considered input. So mantra means such considered thoughts, tattva and mantra, and then following of which tranancha kurute, it protects. So if you read Arthashastra, it will protect you from the pitfalls in administration. If you read Ayurveda, it will again avoid or kind of what are all the unhealthy way of sedentary way of living, what is the healthy way of living. So tranancha kurute, it protects. So tantra is that discusses things in plenty, which has the truths, which gives considered output, and the following of which will give you some protection in any field that you take. So this is a comprehensive definition of Tantra. So biology, chemistry, biotechnology, nanotechnology, whatever technology, whatever emerging frontier fields you speak, that field will also be included under this fourfold parameter. So any Shastra, any discipline of knowledge can be called as Tantra. While this is given in the context of Tantra Shastram, Tantra is a kind of Shastram, this can also be generalized, and it has been generalized in the tradition itself. It's not that we are doing that, the words are not enough. So even one has to define what a structured abstract should be. It should have the devices used, it should have the definition of the devices, and also an illustration. If not the comprehensive illustration, while Kautilya has done the comprehensive illustration, for each of the yukti he has provided illustration, at least a representative illustration should be given in the research methodology protocol. This is a beautiful learning that can right away be incorporated in the current day research methodology, thesis, construction practices. Now, this was a protocol, as I said. And this was a protocol not only followed by Kautilya, you have the entire Ayurveda literature following the same protocol. Kautilya, Charaka has used, Sushruta has used. So all these, they have also towards the end they have given. And in ancient Tamil literature, in Tolkapiyam, which is the most ancient text on grammar of various kinds, that is the first, in the beginning of the text. While Kautilya has given the protocol at the end of the text, Tolkapiya gives the Tantrayukti in the beginning of the text, and then he proceeds with his, typically like the current day thesis, where we give the protocol in the, or the research methodology protocol in the beginning. So this is how it appeared. We will get into all those devices, etc. But I am just giving you a kind of, we are slowly zeroing in on Tantrayukti, but these are the fundamental ideas. If you want to explore on your own also, all these peripheral or zeroing in details will help you. And then, now, Tantrayukti, as I said, is not a standalone document. You have some more additions to it also. Something comes along with Tantrayukti as a package. Tantrayukti is 32 devices or 36 devices or 40 devices depending upon which text have used it, but Kautilya gives 32 devices. And then there are some documents which describe Tantra Gunas. What is the virtue? If Tantra Yuktis are devices for text construction, Tantra Gunas are the characteristics, is a list again, is a list of characteristics of a good treatise. Tantra Dosha is the flaws that impair a systematic treatise. So to evaluate a thesis, if you just know what Tantra Gunas and Tantra Doshas are, you can evaluate. In one of the earliest presentations, sir, when I made a presentation, Varkhedi sir was there, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Central Sanskrit University now. So he said, if not Tantrayukti by the students, means Tantrayukti is essential for students to or PhD scholars to construct the thesis, the PhD thesis evaluators, they can right away use Tantra Gunas and Tantra Doshas, and while they write a report on a thesis, they can refer to Tantra Gunas and Tantra. So these are the Tantra Doshas I found in your thesis. How are you going to rectify? Or initially you can say these are the Tantra Gunas, very well, wonderful contribution. So you can determine the quality of the treatise right away. Again, ready-made takeaway. So as I said, the protocol, how to present the protocol is a ready-made takeaway from the Indian research methodology systems from Tantrayukti. This is one ready-made takeaway, not for the students, but for the teachers or the guides or the thesis evaluators. So hence this comment was given by Varkhedi sir. So hence this is a ready-made, right away usable document for researchers on both sides of the table. So hence there is a list of, while just to show the list of Tantra Gunas, because I am not going into it. Sumahadyashasvi, Dhira, it's not that in Shastra Parampara, na kevala pratignatam artham sadhayet. I cannot merely make a statement that there are 19 Tantra Gunas and go away. I should also show that it is a reality. It really exists. So I am just showing you the list. I cannot go into the details of it. Why? Because our focus is Tantra Yuktis. So hence I am just showing that Tantra Gunas and Tantra Doshas do exist. The list does exist, especially elaborated, commented upon in the Ashtanga Hridaya, in the Sarvanga Sundara Vyakhya, Uttara Tantra, you find the list described. Okay. Now, sir, it's one, sir. How do we do? So, see, these are the...
Actually, I request you to continue after the session.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So,
Don't mind losing lunch.
okay.
We cannot lose this.
In Tamil, there is a saying, sir. What is that? Exactly. Exactly. When I run out of my content, then go for lunch.
For the years, Guruvala was saying only then should there be food for the stomach.
Yeah, that's what I summarized. When I stop bombarding your ears, then you can, or we can all together go for lunch. So now we actually come to the core of the discussion, that is Tantrayukti. How do they contribute? Again, this will again be an introductory kind of an orientation only, because each of those yuktis can be discussed with illustration and definition. It will be a very interesting task to do. I enjoy doing it. But for the sake of an orientation, I am just giving. So how do Tantra yuktis help? So as I said, we can, and I limit my elaboration or restrict my elaboration. The scope of my discussion is based on Kautilya's understanding of Tantrayukti. Because there is Ayurveda, there is one of my friends, they have written a thesis on the Charaka Samhita Tantra Yuktis, and even in Charaka Samhita there are 3 different commentators. Each of those commentators is interpreting the Yukti in a different manner. So, though the nomenclature is one, you have 3 definitions. Actually, Tantra Yukti is rich in that sense, that layers and layers of meanings are there for research things. So that's why I restrict my interpretation of the yukti to what Kautilya has said and how he has defined it. But of course, I will freely transgress the limit in taking the examples from Ayurveda also to exhibit it, so that to show that it is not limited only to the humanities, you can find examples in the sciences also, like Ayurveda, medical discipline. So for among the 32 yuktis of Kautilya, you can see, or this is my analysis. For the content, you can find 11 yuktis. This is my analysis. And for structure, you find 12 yuktis. And then for refining the diction of the language of the thesis, you get 9 yuktis. So this is the distribution of the yuktis of Kautilya Arthashastra as I observe it. So content, structure and language. So if these 3 points keep ringing in your mind, your thesis will certainly have a quantum jump in quality. So to me, what are the 11 yuktis? So I already showed you the list of Tantrayuktis, beginning from Adhikaranam, Vidhanam, Yogaha, Padarthaha, Hetvarthaha, Uddeshaha, Nirdeshaha. Those 32 yuktis, I see it in, among them 11 contribute to the content. So Samshayaha, Anumatam and Apadesha, Hetvartha, Upadesha Ekanta, it's some other text it is called as Niyoga, Apavarga, Vikalpa and Samuchaya. So these are the 11 yuktis that contribute to the content. So when I speak about the content, see how does the thesis germinate. You have to go to the genesis of a thesis. A genesis of a thesis, as I said, can be a fall of a fruit on your head. But it can germinate anywhere. It can have its origin anywhere. Basically, it germinates from a doubt. Samshaya. So that's why I see, that's why even everywhere they will ask in any thesis examination, what is your research? Question. So hence, any commencement of any useful, worthwhile thesis should commence with Samshaya. Now, when I see this, what Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita, can we have Samshaya? No. Samshaya Atma. Then how do you say that in the beginning of, this is against the teaching of Krishna. How do you say that we are all, then all of us are researcher here. So we all have Samshayas. Then what Krishna has said about us, he doesn't have good words about us. Samshaya Atma Vinashyati. You have to see, Krishna has carefully worded it. He doesn't say Samshayavan Vinashyati, Samshaya Atma. What is Samshaya Atma means? Atma there means Samshaya Swarupa. Means he is a wandering embodiment of question, doubt. Of course you can have doubt, but you have to settle down or seek answers. If you are a Samshaya Atma, Vinashyati. You can, of course, Ashraddhadhanascha Samshayatma. There are certain pre-existing dimensions are also there.
A Samshayatma who is a Ashraddhadhana.
True. Certainly. See, only an Ajna and Ashraddhadhana becomes a Samshayatma. Means he is a wandering source of doubts because he doesn't trust in anything. He also does not read anything. He only just asks, keeps questioning. Questioning alone, while questioning is a virtue, always questioning is again a vice. You are not led anywhere. So hence, sir? Pariprashna. Yes. So hence, Samshaya is good or not? Samshayatma Vinashyati. That's why later he says Shraddhavan Labhate Jnanam. As an answer to Samshayatma Vinashyati, he says Shraddhavan.
What is the difference between Samshaya and Prashna? Is there a difference?
Of course there is a difference. See, Ubhayakotikaha Samshayaha. Ubhayakotikaha, whether is it this way or that way. So, is this the solution or that the solution? That is a Samshaya. So, or it's not merely Ubhaya Kotika, multiple also. Is this the solution or that the solution, that the solution? So, multiple possible solutions. So, for example, how to illustrate a Samshaya? And then in our Shastra we see Sthanurva Purushahava. Something you see, something along vertically there in half lit this thing. You are not sure whether it is a sthanu or a post of wood or it has certain branches. It also looks like hands, head, etc. Is it a human being? Rajjuhuva sarpahava. Is it a snake or a rope? Or shuktihiva rajatamva. Is it a shell or a conch shell or a silver? So in this way, generally ubhaya kotikaha, many kotis can also be there. Many possible these things can also be there. Prashna is kind of definition where you desire to know. Jignasa avishkaranam prashna. In one of the definitions, you express your desire to know certain thing, that is prashna. So which can, for which samshaya can be a subset. Yeah.
One point which I heard in a lecture somewhere where the quote, I think it's from Bhagavad Gita, there it says Tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So questioning is a very important aspect of knowing. That's what I wanted to
No
ask.
doubt at all. I am perfectly with you. Yes. Actually, see, if you go to Upanishad, that's again another topic of lecture. There is a Prashna, Ati Prashna. There is interesting discussion in the Prashnopanishad also about Ati Prashna. Ati Prashnan Prichasi Brahmishtosi Tasmat Te Aham Bravimi. You are asking Ati Prashnas. Your questions are probing. You are closer to truth. Hence I will teach you. In the same Upanishad, Ati Prashnan Prichasi Murdhate Vyapaptat. Means you are asking questions which lead only to a dead end. Your head will break into 1,000 pieces. So Ati Prashna has 2 days. So questioning also has been thoroughly discussed in our traditions. And what is the golden mean, or what is the golden guideline that is there in questioning, that is also discussed. So that's why I said the mental climate set by the Upanishads is imbibed in all these things. So it's my analysis that Tantrayukti is while there is a traditional sequence of yuktis given in Kautilya and other literature, we can reorganize from our current understanding, starting with the samshaya. You should have a doubt. Okay, I have a doubt. How do I go about finding this thing? Oh, see, my doubt is unique in this world. So hence I am supreme. Don't feel that. Go to literary survey. What others have spoken about it. So anumatam and apadeshaha guide you to, if you have a doubt, don't declare that I have found out the core problem of the entire universe. Don't say that. Go to the pre-existing literature, anumatam and apadesha. So literary review, try to see whether this question of this nature has been already raised and answered, to which extent it has been answered, all that you can see. So it doesn't mean, and one more thing is, on literary review, if your question seems to have been answered, there is no need for a researcher to get discouraged. He can feel which are the dimensions of my question not answered. So you can still explore. It's not a dead end. There was a particular, this is my personal experience, on a particular day doing my thesis, I felt that there is nothing remains in this field for me to do. That's all. Then how am I going to complete my thesis? So that thing, and then further as I persisted, keep studying, kept looking for references and resources, then so many things opened up. Oh, all these things have not at all been touched by anyone. See, it only comes by perseverance in the form of looking for the pre-existing answers on the question. That valid guidance of literary survey has already been given in the Tantrayuktis in the form of Anumatam and Apadesha. Anumatam means you simply admit the answers of others. Apadesha means this person has said this way, which I may not agree. Or to this extent this person has brought this knowledge, let me explore further based on this. So you can see in literary review also 2 dimensions are there. Anumata is paramatam apratisiddham anumatam itihi tantrayuktihi. Acharya Shankara also uses this anumata tantrayukti. While he doesn't use the word tantrayukti, in Panchavrittihi Manovad Vyapadishyate, in one of the Brahma Sutras while explaining, he says that just like the Panchavrittis of the Manas, similarly one can consider the Panchavrittis of Prana. The Panchavrittis of Manas is spoken by the Yoga Shastrajñas, while I don't accept, while Yoga Shastra is a paramata for me, but that framework of 5-fold division of the Vrittis of the Manas can be applied to the 5-fold activities of the Prana. So paramatam, which I don't, say I may disagree with you on various counts, it doesn't mean that you are an untouchable for me completely. that intellectual untouchability is not there. Whichever is a grahyamsha, whichever I can grasp from you, I can take it. And Shankaracharya has shown that he is not in favor of intellectual untouchability. In the sense, whatever is good to be accepted frameworks from other streams of knowledge, I have taken it. So that is anumatam. And then apadesha means you merely quote others. Maybe you partially agree or you don't agree, but still you have to quote others. In Kautilya also shows in various occasions, iti barhaspatyaha, iti aushanasaha. You cannot just say that these are the views. Who said this? If I want, so why is it essential that who said this should be mentioned? Because one thing is, it avoids plagiarism. Number two, as a researcher, if I want to know in which context are you misinterpreting, are you selectively quoting? If that has to be avoided, you have to have the guts to quote it and show that you can find an elaboration in that context. Even if you contextually read it, it will be the same sense. So that's where that view is still invalid. So for that intellectual, what do you say? Intellectual strength, to show your intellectual strength and also intellectual sincerity. So all these have been already considered. See, these are all, plagiarism is a subject in research methodology. Literary survey has already been mentioned, and with quotation from the others shastra. Yeah, with citation. It's very essential. That has been shown. Okay. Then, hetvartha. So, you had a doubt. See, in those yuktis also, I feel there is a sambandha. There is an anupurvi. There is a flow of the yuktis. That's why I have rearranged in this particular flow. You have a doubt, you look into literature. And then, on studying the literature, finally you come to the hetvartha. Hetuhu artha sadhakaha hetvartha. Hetvartha doesn't mean the meaning of the cause. Hetu, the cause which will answer the question. Artha sadhakaha. So you finally arrive at, this seems to be the problem. This seems to be the core area or the crux of the problem. So, or you also have a semblance of the solution. So, hetvartha. So, hence, samshaya, anumata, padesha, then hetvartha. See, what happens in between all these things? I have a samshaya and then anumata, apadesha. These are all the hints. So, we have to work. So, between samshaya to anumata, from anumata to hetvartha, there is miles and miles to be crossed. That's why they don't expect you to submit your thesis. You register for the thesis today, tomorrow submit. It is not expected that way. That's why they give 5 years, 6 years, sometimes extension 7 years. If corona comes, 9 years. So in this way, so from the commencement of the thesis till the conclusion, there is no urgency. But the point is, quite some distance has to be covered. Means a lot of effort has to be put in. Number of how is a pilot evaluated? A pilot is evaluated based on flying hours. So similarly, we should also have flying hours in between these yuktis. So then we can slowly progress, strengthen our thesis in this way. See, these are all the hints. That's why you cannot say this is not this is comprehensive. Just in the traditional Rangoli, how do they do? The dots they put. And then if everything is fed, then what is there for the researcher to do? It is we who have to connect the dots and make a new Rangoli, a new pattern. That is our new contribution. So hence these are in themselves comprehensive. I have no doubt in saying that these themselves are comprehensive, and a researcher is not a LKG student. He doesn't require everything to be explained from A to Z or A to Z. So hints are given, you develop, think based on these hints and make useful, meaningful connections between these devices. So hence in that sense, is the content description comprehensive? Of course it is comprehensive. And also earlier I meant Tantrayukti is not a rigid kind of structure. It can include other ideas, and traditionally also this is how it has been. I quoted from the verse. And then, so you arrive at the core area, the problem, and then slowly you give out your output. So you have thought about it, and on what way your output will be. Your output should essentially be in the form of various observations, rules, frameworks. So all that is indicated. So Upadesha, it can be in the form of an advice. It can be in the form of a suggestion. See, researcher always doesn't say idam ittam. Sometimes, see, this is how it is. No. It could be considered also. See, most yoga researchers, when they say yoga is also a complementary approach, while allopathy is there, these yogic practices can also be considered as an add-on for this allopathic practice. So hence most of this are in the form of Upadesha. Most yogic research output, it doesn't say stand alone. If you stand upside down only, your health problem, no, you cannot say that. It can be in the form of Upadesha. See, along with that, you can integrate so that it will be beneficial. You can also ignore my suggestion. So, it is in the form of a suggestion. But still it is a valid research output. Upadesha is also a valid research output because I have given you an option. See, you can also add on so that your healing process is quickened. So, while the number of the dosage will come down, the mg or the steroids or other things or the necessity for going for a surgery, all that will come down. Or else, see, surgery is also a solution. It also gives a solution, but make the yoga add on, there is a possibility, probability of your requiring a surgery will come down. So hence, output can be in the form of suggestion. So research output, I am saying that. So it is not that originally, just like, what is that? Some new concept only you have to unearth. No. Even if you are making some valid, useful, add-on, complementary suggestions, that is also a research output. This understanding was not there for me as a researcher. As a researcher, I did not have. I thought, oh, research means a big word and then I have to bring an earth-shattering output. No. Everyone cannot, or it is not necessary also to make earth-shattering findings. So hence, output can also be in the form of Upadesha and of course, Ekanta and Niyoga, invariable rules also. I can also, by repeated observations, research, by using the Samshaya, Anumata, Apadesha, all these things, I can also say, if this phenomenon happens, this will be the output. So I can also say rules without exceptions. You can see in humanities, in science, everywhere you can say, if you behave in this particular manner, the other person will respond to you in this manner only. So in behavioral dimension, in humanity, so in psychology and other things which fall under the humanities, this thing, so you can predict that if this happens, that is bound to happen. If a king behaves, if an administrator behaves or kind of does these things in a particular manner, this is bound to happen. If you indulge in too much of a dyuta, he says, Kautilya says, if you indulge in too much of dice, gambling, etc., you are bound to fail as a king and you are bound to face your end. These are niyogas or ekanta, rules which will certainly produce that outcome. The cause-effect connect is not arbitrary. The cause-effect connect is very firm. You are very sure about it. So in this way also you can contribute. While you can make suggestions, you can also make a firm rule or kind of firm observation that this is the cause-effect connect. And most scientists, they do this mostly. Means, it's not that every scientist do this. Scientific output can also be in this way, but along with that, apavarga is also there. Means, I see that in 90% of cases, this is the cause-effect correct. There are also exceptions. So when you present a rule with an exception, which means, hey, see, whatever rule I have presented, it has exceptions. Don't feel that way. It means you have observed it so many times that you have also noted the rule and also the exception. It applies equally to science and humanities. Does it not? So everywhere. So see, even in literature, it happens. If you write these kinds of words, invariably this is the kind of emotion it will evoke. But on certain occasions, if such other characters, see there are flat characters, I am also a student of literature. So there are flat characters and round characters. Flat characters you can predict. So if you create a flat character, this is how the story is going to end. See, certain movies, even before they begin, or by reading the review, or even by looking at 5-10 minutes of movie, you will finally say whether the hero will live or not. For example, Rajinikanth, when he comes, can he ever die in the movie at the end? Not at all. We will not accept. So, certain predictability. They are flat characters. But whereas there are certain round characters where you can insert them. So that's why I said in literature, which is also part of humanities, in science. So in science, you can give these treatment. There are examples in Ayurveda where you see in certain cases you can adopt this treatment approach, whereas if the patient has this particular condition, don't do this. Or if the patient is experiencing fever, fever can come from various reasons. Generally the fever treatment is like this, but if the fever is caused by some other thing, then you have to use alternative approach, which means your study is comprehensive. If your rules are with exception, then it is still good. It is really good actually. More than, but because what happens is, if you say that my rule, the rule that I have observed and I have stated is without exception, some other day I will come and say, see, in this case there is an exception. But if you yourself are able to find out those areas of exception, then your work will be appreciated better. It doesn't mean that I cannot add more exceptions. That's why in Vasishta Ramayana we see Vasishta speaking to Rama, Timingila gilopyasti, tadgilopyasti Raghava. Timingila is, have you heard? It is a kind of Timi, Nakra, Jhasha. All these are types of big fishes. Timingila is there. Timi is a kind of fish. Timim gilati iti timingilaha. A bigger fish which swallows this Timi is called as Timingila. Vasishta doesn't stop there. There is a Timi. Timi is swallowed by Timingila. Timingila, Gila is also there. There is some other fishes which can swallow Timingilas. Tadgilopyasti Raghava. There are bigger fishes which can swallow this Timingila, Gila also. Timi, Timingila, Timingila, Gila, Tadgila. So in this way, research is like this. So, rules, exceptions, more exceptions, further more exceptions, even more exceptions. This is how a field develops. It doesn't mean that if your rules are with exceptions, fine. Later, someone will come and refine. So hence, apavarga or exception is they have noted it already. It is not like whatever I say is kind of unchanged. See, if it had not been a science, apavarga will never have existed. Whatever Patanjali has said, I accept. I should not contradict. No. Whatever the other sage has said, no. In the sense that there are exceptions. That's how the Vyakhyana Parampara has developed. I don't agree. These are my additions. You cannot merely say I don't agree. You should also say why I don't agree. What is the new theory that you are proposing? That's why Vada is accepted. Vitanda and Jalpa. Vitanda is also accepted. Jalpa is not accepted. Jalpa is merely refuting your argument because you have said it. And Jalpa is, I will refute your argument because you have said it, but I also have a proposition, alternative proposition. Vada is, I will also place my thought, you also place your thought, let us follow all the rules going by the rules. That is Vada. Okay, so hence all these beautiful frameworks to develop a science are already there. So hence Vikalpa, Samuchaya. See, certain factors will not work on their own. Two more dimensions, it can be done this way or that way. Or Samuchaya. So that is Vikalpa. Vikalpa is, there is no one approach to the solution. There may be a multiple approach to the solution, either this way or that way. And Samuchaya is, a combination of factors only will solve this problem. So in this way, your research content can be in these many ways. So this is how, see, if you are contributing, if your content if the output or outcome of your research is in the form of Upadesha, in the form of Ekanta, in the form of Ekanta or rule with, or a Niyama with Apavarga, or it presents a Vikalpa and Samuchaya, then it is a very useful, contribution. Means your own original vikalpa, not copied vikalpa. Original vikalpa, original upadesha, original ekanta. And to come to this, you have to take the steps of samshaya, anumata, hetvartha. Then only you can come to upadesha, ekanta, apavarga, etc. So this is a resume of what you can expect in the in making your content really unique, valid, respected, and oft referred to. See, when does a thesis survive? When it is unique and it is solid, and at least the core principles are not refuted. So madam mentioned about the Chaturvyuha. Though many people may not accept Buddhism, but the Chaturvyuha principles are universally accepted. The Chaturvyuha, as it is mentioned in Ayurveda, it is found in the Yoga Shastra also. Rogo, Roga Hetuhu, Arogyam, Bhaishajyam, iti Chaturvyuha, where Heyam, Heya Hetu, Hana, Hanopaya, all this is accepted. See, whether or not it originally originated in Buddhism is another question, but still, the earliest available idea of the Chaturvyuha you find in Buddhism. So hence, the point is, see, a thesis or a concept you provide, if it is in any of these dimensions, then it will survive. Even now we can apply that Chaturvyuha, because it has certain original frameworks, wonderful ideas that are there, which is in the form of Upadesha. Where do you classify this Chaturvyuha? It is Upadesha. See, how do you structure your thought? You can put it as Heyam, Heya, Hetu, Hana, Hano. That's the original contribution of Buddha and his followers. We still take it that way. So it is in the output is in the form of Upadesha, and it is unique and it is comprehensive. So it is followed. So hence, if you take the spirit of the content from the Tantrayuktis, I have just given a description. There is a definition and how Kautilya has illustrated. That will be more interesting. So this is the part 1 of Tantrayukti, where we have covered about content, which is critical. And the next 2 are? Next is structure. After content comes structure. And then only comes language.
Can I please have a huge round of applause for Professor Jayaraman, sir?
Overview, introduction, and also we covered the content dimension of thesis construction. These are the major yuktis that help in helping arrive at a useful content of the thesis. Let us see. Let us now. I'll just give you a couple of illustrations. See, I theoretically mentioned about these yuktis. So we can just look at a couple of examples how Kautilya has elaborated upon this. See, it is not just a notion. In detail, we have the definition and also illustration. I mentioned that. Let's see a couple of examples for content and then quickly move on to structure and then on to language. So, as I said, samshaya is an important. How is it defined? What is the definition of a doubt? Doubt is a doubt. Why do you need to define it? No. Until you define, you do not know whether it is doubt or not. Okay. See, that every concept that you mention doesn't remain as a notion, but it has to be defined. It is defined by Kautilya as Ubhayato Hetuman Arthaha Samshayaha. An issue with 2 sides with valid causes. A point, a concept or a discussion, a point of discussion. The translation is not very perfect. A point. Hetuman, Hetu. The Hetu is there, cause or kind of reason. Hetu, if it is reason, there are 2 alternatives and both the alternatives have reasons behind them. Both the alternatives are not unreasonable. Both alternatives are reasonable. So the question is, which is more reasonable? That you have to arrive at. So that is the task at hand. So hence samshaya, ubhayato samshayaha. Samshayaha is a particular subject, vastu. There are many meanings for the word artha. In Amarakosha, you see, Artho Bhideya Rai Vastu Prayojana Nivrittishu. Artha means Abhideya, Rai, Vastu, Prayojana, Nivritti. All these meanings are there. Vastu, object, Prayojana, purpose, Rai, wealth. So word Artha has so many meanings. So here Artha means Vastu. Vastu here means a topic, a concept. So what kind of an Artha? A concept or a topic that has Ubhayataha, on both sides, Hetuman, having valid reasons. So that is Samshaya. So now Kautilya himself gives an illustration of the expression of Samshaya. He says, Kshina lubdha prakritikam, apachita prakritikam va. This is the question. So which kingdom should we attack? A king, see that strategy is also there. Arthashastra is all about, what is the definition of Arthashastra? Arthashastra is about Prithivyaha labhaha palanam cha. Prithivyaha labhaha. It is essential to go on expanding your territory. Prithivyaha labhaha. And it is not enough if you keep on extending your territory, but you should also administer it, maintaining it. On one direction I am expanding. From the behind it has left unmaintained. Then finally what I have conquered? Only little. So hence Arthashastra is about Prithivyaha acquisition, Labhaha and Palanam. So in that context, which king to attack is quite a subject area of Arthashastra only. So which territory to conquer first? Where should I attack? So Kshina lubdha prakritikam or apachita prakritikam. Prakriti means subjects, citizens. So two kingdoms are there with prakritis. Kingdoms are not without citizens. But what happens is, one kingdom are with subjects which are Kshina lubdha prakritikam. When there are two assailable enemies, one of virtuous character under worse trouble and another vicious character under less trouble. So you see, two territories are there. People are happy, but they are lurable. On the other side, people are not happy in the sense that the kingdom is under drought or some other condition, financial crisis, but the people are good. They are loyal, they are patriotic, they are dedicated to the king. So which king to attack against? Both are possible. Because these people can be lured. You just have to pay money and you can lure them. You can easily create traitors in one side. On the other side, no need to spend anything at all. They are already weak. So both are possible, no? So a king can decide either to attack this side or that side. So later, this is the point of discussion. But finally Kautilya also doesn't merely create the question and leave it. A doubt again he creates and doesn't leave it. He says, attack a country where the subjects are lurable. Even if people are under worse trouble, they will rally behind the king and then they will fight.
When he says that, that is what is Nirnaya, right? But Nirnaya as a Tantrayukti is missing in whatever Chanakya has proposed.
See that he states, you have that Purva Paksha, Uttara Paksha. In that Uttara Paksha dimension, certain conclusions are presented there. And one more thing, again by Samshaya is not again left hanging in the air. Samshaya is created only for Nirnaya. So doubts are created, the doubts are expressed really eloquently well, and then the response is also given.
Nirnaya is not coined, but it is subsumed into...
It is implied. One more thing is, he is expressing the Samshaya. See, the Kautilya knows the Samshaya and Kautilya also knows the Nirnaya. But he is slowly if Samshaya is present, if I write a Samshaya in the text, I write the Samshaya only to provide a Nirnaya. I cannot merely leave the subject open. In the then only, so I will not as a researcher, but see, this is called as Swarthanumana and Pararthanumana. See, I will have the doubt in my mind, I will resolve in it. but in the process of conveying it to the others, it has to be conveyed systematically. How I traveled, see, that's how in research paper, in the documentation, you have to write about your hypothesis, null hypothesis, possibility, impossibility, everything you have to put it. And then finally you have to write as to how you came about to this decision. So hence, it is very essential that the samshaya is elaborated, and while I write about samshaya, it is implied that there is a nirnaya for which I have raised this samshaya. Okay, so when the enemy of the vicious character under worst trouble is attacked, his subjects will help him, whereas the subjects of the other vicious character under less trouble will be indifferent, etc. So this dimension is samshaya, the nirnaya is later given. So it is this which makes a person think, that's all. So that is the limited purpose. So one should think about the various possibilities. So one should have a question. So that's an elaboration. And then let us come to a reference on, this is a very interesting thing, on literary survey or studying others' view. So, apadeshaha, evam asau aha ityapadeshaha, quoting others' view. So it was already there, referencing, quoting others' view. So Mantri Parishat is cabinet. So what should be the number of ministers in a cabinet? So for that, Kautilya presents this. This is an expression of the Tantrayukti Apadesha. So when the question of number of ministers in the cabinet comes, then what Kautilya says? Dvadashamatyam kurvita iti manavaha shodasha iti bharyahaspatyaha vimshatihi iti aushanasaha yatha samarthyam iti Kautilyaha. So what should be the number of ministers in the council? Dvadasha, 12 ministers. You should have 12 ministers in your council. This is according to Manavaha, the followers of Manu. Shodasha iti bharyahaspatyaha, 16 ministers should be in the cabinet according to the followers of Brihaspati. Vimshatihi iti aushanasaha, the cabinet should have how many ministers? 20 according to the followers of Ushanas or Shukracharya. So this is Apadesha. This is Apadesha being expressed. So the number of ministers. So when the question arises, so he looks into various treatises, various sources, he sees that there are so many numbers given. See, one thing you should observe about Kautilya, and this is a sound research practice, that when you collect or refer previous existing data, you should also organize the pre-existing data properly. You can see 12 ministers, 16 ministers, 20 ministers. There you can see he has put the number in the ascending order. This is a hint. This is a hint that when you have a question, when you do a literary survey, it should not be just a random work of collecting and putting things. Even that literary survey, you should find a order, flow, sequence and certain hierarchy in those thoughts. That should also be thing. And then finally says, and there is a response on this original thought of Kautilya is also there. What he says, Yatha samarthyam iti Kautilyaha. So how many ministers should be there in the council? According to the capability of the king. Yatha samarthyam. Samarthyam is the capability. So if the king is able to have many and delegate the jobs and get it done, he can have many. Or if the king is running a coalition government, there will be a jumbo cabinet if 96 ministers will also be there. So it is the capability of the king that determines the number. There cannot be a fixed number. He is the considered view of Kautilya. How has he arrived at that? Initially he had the data, that 12, 16, 20, and then he analyzes the entire situation and then makes a statement according to the capability of the king. If you have to make a statement like this, you have to have this prior data and data to be organized systematically. So this is the Apadesha Tantrayukti. How you do a literary survey and then organize your information that you have gained therein. So in this way, there are many such examples. So I'll just give another example for content. See, this is how you slowly move towards original content. See, you should have an original doubt of your own. You should have studied the literature of your own. Means you should have studied on your own effort. You should have surveyed the literature, organized the literature, and only then you can arrive at a conclusion. So this is a useful conclusion, original conclusion. Unique contribution can come about only if you have samshaya and apadesha. If you have done that, only that will lead you to this. And then now you are expressing, based on your study, expressing your views, suggestions, responses, contributions. As I said, exception, rule and exception. So I will give you one example about exception. Abhipluta vyapakarsanam apavargaha. So restricting a pervasive rule is exception. Abhipluta, pervasive. Vyapakarshanam, limiting it. So limiting a pervasive rule is called as apavargaha. So that is the definition given by Kautilya. So now let us see the description, give the example. Let's see the example given by Kautilya. He gives nityam asannam aribalam vasayet anyatra abhyantara kopa shankaya. So where should the army be positioned? As a rule, the army should be positioned near the enemy forces. Where will the enemies be? There will be in the borders. So if Pakistan army is there, Indian army should be face to face with that. So most of the army concentration should be in face to face with the Aribala. The enemy force is there. You have to post equal number of forces there. But this is the Abhipluta. This is the pervasive rule. What is the exception? Anyatra abhyantara kopa shankaya. If there is a possibility of a civil war, if there is a possibility of abhyantara kopa, civil disturbance, you can draw the forces first to establish the stability within, and then you can take care of the external. So the exception case here is, at all times place your forces or army stationed near the enemy lines. The exception to this rule is, if there is a civil disturbance, don't place them, don't keep army out of action, bring the army inside. So this is the exception to the rule as provided by Kautilya himself. And then from science also you have, from Sushruta Samhita, Asvedya Vishopa Srishtaha Anyatra Kita Vishat. Poison bites happen. Visha Upasrishtaha. Visha is poison, Upasrishta means being bitten or having a poisonous bite. So Asvedyaha means this rule is in the form of a prohibition. The rule prohibits. The pervasive prohibitory rule is, when there is a poisonous bite, fomentation or sweat therapy. So sweat therapy or leading to perspiration. Sweat therapy should never be applied for poison bites. This is a pervasive rule. But Anyatra Kita Vishat. If that poisonous bite is from an insect, you can do fomentation. So in all other fomentation, in all other poisonous bites, the pervasive prohibition is no fomentation. But if the bite is from an insect, then there you can make an exception. So these are exceptions and rules that you can get from this parampara. And now we move on to, these are a few examples. It is not that they merely remained as a theories. You can see that they have been very well illustrated both in the Prachina medical system and also in the Kautilya Arthashastra humanities. Now let us come to the structuring. Now you have created a wonderful thesis, you have wonderful suggestions, prescriptions, rules, exceptions, all that you have created. Now that has to be offered in a proper, structured, intelligible manner. So that's very essential. As the milk is important, the container in which the milk is given, that is also equally important. So there are yuktis. Mostly they come in pairs. Interesting dimension is the yuktis, you can see they are individual only, but they beautifully fall in pairs. Adhikaranam, Vidhanam, Uddeshaha, Nirdeshaha, Purvapakshaha, Uttarapakshaha, Atikranta Vekshanam, Anagata Vekshanam, Atideshaha, Pradeshaha, Prasangaha. So all these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 only. The numbering is wrong here. So this is 9 and 10, this is 11. So numbering is, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. That's a typo. So you have 11 yuktis. Let us see what is there in this. So first, the first structuring element. See, it's a new way of looking at things. The first structuring element is adhikaranam. Adhikaranam is a subject matter and it also means the title of the thesis or the initial passages that introduce the thesis. So, see, that is it a structural yukti? Will you accept it as a structural yukti? The initial passages which introduces the thesis, it is called as initial lines even. The title and the initial few lines, that is adhikaranam, and I have put it as a structural yukti because one gets to know what is there in the thesis. Means the structure should convey what is there. See, it is not about the content. There is nothing original content that you are creating or something like that. So that is a structural element which conveys the subject matter in a very crisp manner. That's why people struggle a lot to name the title of the thesis. It's a very tough job because it should be anyuna anatirikta. Means it should not be more or it should not be less. It should not, again, what is that? There is an expression in English. Inflate to deceive. What is that? Something. It should not be an exaggeration of what is not in that. Or it should not be an understatement. So many wonderful ideas will be there, but the title thesis does not reflect it at all. It should not be that way. So Kautilya gives this as adhikaranam. So if that is the title, so title or those lines, initial lines which crisply convey the content, that is adhikarana tantrayukti. In every thesis, this adhikarana should be there. Yes, madam.
What about keywords? Is there a mention of keywords somewhere?
No, madam. We have to create. You can add a keyword as a tantrayukti under this. So, the point is adhikaranam is subject matter and then vidhanam. See, it's very interesting. What the elaboration of adhikaranam is vidhanam. Vidhanam is a TOC, table of contents. Shastrasya prakarananupurvi vidhanam. See, you say that this is what I am discussing in adhikaranam. How are you discussing this? What are the chapters and the subchapters and titles and subtitles? So enlisting it is called as Vidhanam Tantrayukti. Table of contents is a Tantrayukti. Title is a Tantrayukti. And they are not just the dispensable elements of a thesis. They are fundamental elements of a thesis. That's what makes you go into the thesis. Someone says, this is my PhD thesis. Initially, what will you read? First, I will read what the title of the thesis is. And then next, immediately you will go into how this person has approached the title. You will go to the table of content. Oh, all these topics. Okay, it seems to be a comprehensive attempt. So we come to, so the very structure is expressed by both adhikarana and vidhana. Are you with me? Yes. So and then again we get into the topic. So then you get uddesha and nirdesha. So you make on a particular chapter, you are going to, I will give you examples for this. So in every section, you make a small list and then you follow the order and then elaborate based on it. For example, I cannot hold myself from giving the example. Prithivyapastejo Vayurakasha iti. No, these are the Navadravyani. Navadravyani. In Tarka Shastra, 9 dravyas are given. Prithvi, Apaha, Tejaha, Vayu, Akash and other things are given. So Navadravyani are given. So the list is given and then based on the list, first Tatra Gandhavati Prithvi. So the listing is Uddesha. Elaboration for respecting the order of the list is called as Nirdesha. Let me quote from my own Shastra, that is Yoga Shastra. Pramana Viparyaya Vikalpa Nidra Smritayaha. So 5 vrittis, 5 activities of the mind is given. The list is given. Patanjali Maharshi gives the list of 5 types of vrittis. Pramana, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smriti. Pramana, right knowledge. Viparyaya, wrong knowledge. Vikalpa, imagination. Nidra, deep sleep. Smriti is remembering. So 5 vrittis, the names are given. Then after that, Pratyakshanumanagama Pramanani Viparyayo Mithyagnana Matadrupa Pratishtham Shabda Jnananupati Vastu Shunyo Vikalpaha Abhava Pratyayalambana Vrittir Nidra Anubhuta Vishaya Sampramosha Smritihi. What is the order of the list? Pramana, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smriti. Thus all the subsequent sutras, they respect this order and then first Pramana is defined, then Viparyaya, then Vikalpa, then Nidra, then Smriti. So all these are beautiful structural aspects. There will be no surprises. If you remember Pramana, Viparyaya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smriti, next 5 sutras you remember already. So this structuring is very important because our tradition was a oral tradition primarily. So hence, if there is no structuring, there is no remembering. You commit the list in a particular order and elaborate in a different order, then it is lost. You cannot remember it. So the 2 yuktis of committing the list and then elaborating based on the committed sequence, which is very critical. Every chapter can have this. So at the beginning of the chapter you can say, for example, huge machinery. In this chapter, I will speak about definition of machinery, the parts of the machinery, and so X, Y, Z. So that is Uddesha. And elaborating the subsequent passages based on the same thing, that is called as Nirdesha. So that gives a structure to the thesis. And then Purva Paksha, Uttara Paksha means objections and responses to the objections. So this should actually come in the content. Why is it put under structure? Actually, if you observe that, see, of course it has a shade of content. It contributes original. I'll come, sir. It contains it has the elements of content, but basically, if you study the Shastra literature, if you can see the Purva Pakshas and the Uttara Pakshas organized, so they will take up the Pradhana Purva Paksha. There is a Pradhana Malla Nibarhana Nyaya in Brahma Sutra, where the most powerful opponent is first taken. And then his views are rejected. And then the lesser, and then the lesser, and then the lesser. So there is also an element of structuring. So so while it is conceptual dimension, content dimension only, but still in Purva Paksha, Uttara Paksha also, how you take on your objections, how you respond to the objections. The most powerful one or the most kind of compelling arguments you first place, then gradually you take up lesser compelling arguments and then reject it. So there is predominantly an element of structuring in this also. So then people, they can remember, oh, first this was refuted, then this was refuted, then this was. So this also helps in retaining the structure of the thesis. All this is exemplified in the Brahma Sutra Shankara Bhashya, where especially in the Tarkapada, where all the opponents are taken one by one and then systematically refuted and then Advaita is established. Of course, Advaita Tattva is described, but the approach to it is also beautiful. How the various arguments are organized. Uttara Paksha and Purva Paksha. Then Atikranta Vekshana and Anagata Vekshana is very beautiful thing. It is like hyperlink. To read more, go to that chapter. To read more about this, go to a later chapter. So that is Atikranta Vekshanam and Anagata Vekshanam. See, Atikranta avekshanam means I'll give an example to this. This is, I don't know whether I have the example. Let me see. You go ahead with a particular discussion, and then you see to know more about this, go to, if you are in chapter 6, you will say for more elaborations on this, go to chapter 2. There you will see the elaboration. So what happens, and similarly, this is atikranta avekshanam. Atikranta means that which you have already crossed. Avekshanam means you go and see there. Avekshanam means to see. See, you choose not to elaborate a particular thing here, though it is relevant here, but you have already elaborated it there. So to avoid prolixity, means unnecessary elaboration, you choose where you want to elaborate and which is the place the elaboration can be made. So you just refer to that place. Or you can also say, while I can explain this here well, but in a later chapter, the elaboration will be more appropriate. That is anagata avekshanam. Anagata means yet to come. Avekshanam means you can, if you are in the 6th chapter, you can say, in the 9th chapter, you can see the classification about this in more detail. This again makes the text what? Compact. You don't keep repeating the topic. You choose them, and it is not that you have knowledge, you have original knowledge. It doesn't mean that you need to keep repeating it. See, your knowledge only. No one is going to object it. It's your own knowledge, but see how to intelligently position it. See, if you structure it properly, it will be more intelligent. Means people will appreciate it. People will enjoy reading it. And there is an opportunity to go back and read it in a more relevant portion rather than in the current context. So these are beautiful structural tools that you have in Atikranta Avekshanam and Anagata Avekshanam. Now this is what we call it as hyperlink. Like you give a link for this and go there and see more about it. So and then see, Atikranta Avekshanam, Anagata Avekshanam, if this is a reference to previous and later chapters on certain elaborations, Atidesha and Pradesha is recycling arguments. See, you create a particular argument in a previous context, you see that you apply the same argument here also, or rather you are particularly discussing a particular context here, concept here. For that you have to provide a logical argumentation. You can take it from a past context, that is Atidesha, and Pradesha is in a later chapter of your thesis. You have created a new argument. From that you apply it to the, see, I have argued about, so you follow the same pattern of argumentation which has been elaborated in chapter 9. In chapter 8 you can state like this, which means you have absolute control over your, not only the words, also the number of arguments that you have created. Unnecessarily creating more and more arguments is also not necessary. If you have a particular argumentation pattern that can be recycled from a past occurrence, from a from a later occurrence also you can use it here, which means you know what is there in the 2nd chapter, what is there in the 9th chapter, and how you are going to apply it in the 4th chapter. So means you are in perfect control. Sometimes we ourselves do not know what we have written earlier and what we have written later. All that structural pitfalls can be avoided, and then the intellect that you have spent, the knowledge or the energy that you have spent can be optimized. Why? To create more and more redundant, similar argumentation if you can just go with pre-existing models. See, brevity or kind of compactness in argumentation means you have seriously studied the subject. It is not that for elaboration purpose you are creating again and again. You are very well aware wherever certain things can be reused, even intellectually, you are reusing it without unnecessarily. There is a joke about Albert Einstein. So he was a great physicist, and all those things are there. He used to have a pet cat. So he created means his cat always followed him wherever he went. So what happened was, he created a small entrance for the cat. If it butts it with its head, then the door will open. So then that cat entered and it went out. Later the cat had some kitten. So Einstein created smaller holes for the kitten. Then people laughed at him. Hey, in whichever way the cat goes, the kitten can also follow. No need to create a separate path for the kitten. So, in the same way, we should not create more kittens in our thesis. I'm just giving it. If this is managed by the cat itself, we can use the same cat everywhere. Means the same argumentation. In the sense, just giving that example that way. You can say that how the kitten can butt the head. Don't get into all those things. This is just a story. Yes.
Cross-referencing that you're talking about here, 9, 10 and 13, 14, is it applicable to Apadeshaha as well or my own arguments as a researcher?
Apadesha is exception, madam.
No. When
Apavarga.
literature review.
Literature review.
So, are we talking of referencing my own?
No, others. This is within your thesis. This is within your thesis. How you are structuring your thesis? Your own thesis. No, your own arguments. So, in the later part of my thesis, in the earlier part of my thesis, the later argument that I am going to give, in the earlier argument that I have already given. So, this is all within the thesis. You are tightening your thesis in this way.
No, but can it also refer to a Shias?
No, madam. It will be an extra interpretation of that. It's not necessary. Not necessary. This is, we are looking to structure my thoughts, my thesis. So, this is limited to my thesis. So, then prasanga. Prasanga is again very interesting. In the previous passage only I have elaborated. In the next passage, 60% or 70% of thoughts are the same. You only have to make some adjustments in this. So, what you have to do is, same as above. No, you use the expression same as above. You just say same as above, adding to the only unique aspects for the next context. For example, the example for this is, how this comes in the context of appointing spies. A king should appoint Gudha Purushotpattihi. How the king should appoint the spies and how the spies should cover their activities. While they will be spying for the king, so a certain person can be a farmer. A spy can be a farmer. A spy can also be a monk. Means a kind of a sadhu purusha. So in their behaviors, in many issues, they are common. So they have to report to the king. They should not reveal their things. So many things are common between both the spies. But a farmer should be situated in a particular place, operating out of a particular place, whereas a sannyasi should keep moving around. While certain commonalities are being expressed in the next passage, no need to repeat all that is common in the next passage. You just say, same as above. Prakaranantarena samanaha arthaha prasangaha. So, see, it is not a lacuna if you say same as above. See, I shall not write same as above. It will not be good. No. This is a perfectly a good structural yukti in your thesis, whereby the evaluator will understand that you are not unnecessarily filling the number of lines, filling the number of pages. You are conveying the message that you are optimally elaborating and not over elaborating or stating the already stated things. So that is prasanga tantra. Do you agree that all these contribute to structuring a thesis? So let us see a couple of examples. And also viparyayaha, one more dimension. Viparyayaha is, it's again common, everyone knows. You state a particular thing in this order. For a reverse case, the reverse holds good. That's all. For example, the example is, if parasya vachi vaktre prasannatayam lakshitayam. So, that is, a king sends an emissary to the other king. Now it's a tense situation. So, the Duta is sent. an emissary or ambassador or a duta is sent to the other kingdom. So the behavior of the duta is now being commented upon. So the duta or the diplomat who is now interacting with the opposing king, he should parasya vaktre vachi. So in his face and then in his speech, if there is a pleasantness, the duta should now understand that this is a right situation to convey certain things. So this is a positive atmosphere. So if his speech and his face, body language, so already Kautilya comments about the body language. If the body language is positive, the words are also encouraging from the opposition king, then the duta should feel that this is a positive atmosphere and some things will move forward. Viparyaye ananukulam iti means you don't say it once again. If the king's speech is not proper, if the king's body language is not proper, you simply don't say all those things. If the other king's body language is good, speech is good, you feel that this will be positive. On the contrary, that's all. On the contrary, this mission is going to fail. So stating on the contrary, that's all. Yes, vice versa, on the contrary or vice versa. So that is also a yukti. This will again avoid restating everything in the reverse. You merely say on the contrary, on the reverse. So that's all. See, this again will make the structure very, very tight. You don't keep repeating. You don't see here there is no repetition. Here also there is a repetition in the reverse order. No need for that. Just say on the contrary. So in this way they have thought out everything. So with regard to structuring a thesis, from recycling the argument to recycling the elaborations, in structuring the for and against arguments, in the table of contents, in structuring every single unit of the chapter. So you see beautiful Tantrayuktis. Let me give you the examples. I just gave, in the process itself I gave you a lot of examples. You can see, Kautilya's Uddesha and Nirdesha. I will show the example of Uddesha and Nirdesha. You give a list and then stick on to the sequence of the list and elaborate properly. So I have given the example of Pramana Viparyaya Vikalpa, which I spoke already. So Vidya Vinaya Hetuhu Indriya Jayaha. Indriya Jayaha. He speaks about the concept of Indriya Jaya. What is Indriya Jaya? So that he will elaborate. But he says that Vidya Vinaya Hetuhu. That is, if there is a control over the senses, Indriya Jaya, then it will lead to Vidya and Vinaya. Good knowledge and the humility will come about if there is control over the senses. Now what is Indriya Jaya? So for that, there is a sequential elaboration where he says, Karna, Tvak, Akshi, Jihva, Grana, Indriyanam, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandheshu, Apratipattihi, Indriya Jayaha. See, here you can see that the Indriyas are given. And then the objects of the senses are given in the same sequence. Karna, Shabda, Tvak, Sparsha, Akshi, Rupa, Jihva, Rasa, and then Grana, Gandha. So these are the Indriyas. These are the objects, and then these Indriyas not getting overly involved in these senses. These objects, Apratipattihi is called as Indriya Jaya. See, you drop a topic and then you elaborate it in a systematic manner, in a very relatable manner, in a sequential manner. That is also. So while I explained that in subsequent sutras, Pramana Viparyaya Vikalpa Nidra Smriti, the same line is maintained and then the description is made. Within the sentence also, you can be systematic. See here, you could have said, I say ears and then I can say Rupa. You can violate the order. There is a possibility of violating the order here also. But Kautilya ensures, or every researcher should ensure, there should be no violation of order. See, the meaning might not change, but if you violate a if you committed sequence, then the text doesn't remain with you. We will not keep going back to Kautilya Arthashastra for reference if it is not a systematic treatment. So,
But also wrong interpretation would be possible.
wrong interpretation is also possible if you violate our own, you create your own rules and you violate your own rule. That also is a bad comment upon your logical thinking. So, now let me quickly move on to, move on to the language dimension of it. So, there are 9 yuktis. In this, I see 9 yuktis towards the language aspect of it. Padarthaha, yogaha, vyakhya, nirvachanam, upamanam, nidarshanam. So, see, you can see before going into these yuktis, what should be the nature of a language in any given thesis? It should clarify and explain. It should also imply, which indicates refinement. So, it should explain, it should imply. There is export, import. Both are there. So, it should also be elaborate in places which are required. It should also be kind of creating lots of thoughts, unstated implications should flash in your mind. That is when it is more enjoyable. Certain novelists are successful because you read certain passages, then what would have happened? So what is the implication? Certain things play out in my mind. Even a PhD thesis can be like that. You can make your thesis language imply so many things. Not everything has to be written. So hence, the language should explain, the language should imply, the language should also allow you to invent. Then that is when it is scientific. So, see, I have the knowledge, but I don't have the words. Science is like, see, science pushes the language. So, science brings out, or researcher should push the limits of the language. So, hence what happens? And also, the language is lenient enough to allow the break of rules. I think I read one book by David Crystal, who has written about the nature of language. The language rules are meant to be broken. The language rules are meant to be broken in the interest of insights. If your insights, you want to say some long compound, if you feel that this long compound word only will, see, many times we say infotainment. Information is there, entertainment is there. Now when there is a marriage of information and entertainment, you create a new word. So new concepts have come about. The language mends itself or lends itself for mending and bending and creation. That idea already existed in Tantrayukti by Yukti called as Swasamnya. And this itself indicates our Shastra research discipline allowed further development of language, no stagnation. If the knowledge is moving ahead, let the language be created according to it. So let's see some examples. So Padartha. So Padartha is, see, you have to clarify what is the meaning of the word. So you cannot just, see, jargonistic, see, I can use bombastic language. Finally, a person who reads, he doesn't make anything out of it. Or sometimes you have to use a very critical scientific term. You have to use it. You can use it. You must use it. But you should also clarify what it means. So that is padarthaha, padavadhikaha arthaha. And also, it is, certain terms are bound to be misinterpreted. For example, the example that Kautilya gives is mulaharaha. Mulaharaha. What is the meaning of the word mulaharaha? Mula, the root. Haraha means the one who destroys the root. Is Kautilya speaking about someone who is digging the trees and destroying the root? No. Mulaharaha here refers to a person who sits and enjoys the wealth that he has inherited from his fathers and forefathers, and he doesn't work and create his own wealth. His mula. See, even in English you have the expression M-O-O-L-A-H. Mula. Mula means your source wealth. If you sit and enjoy without creating new wealth, you are called as Mulaharaha. So, while the word is not uncommon, Mulahara is known. But in this context of destroying the wealth or mismanagement of wealth, Mulahara points to a person who just eats up his inherited wealth without creating any new wealth. So that is to be clarified. Again, in Ayurveda also, Vedotpatti Madhyayam Vyakhyāsyāmaha. So I will explain about the Vedotpatti. So in the initial passages, in the Charaka Samhita, I think, Vedotpatti, I will speak about the manifestation of the Vedas. Vedotpatti Madhyayam Vyakhyāsyāmaha ityukte, Katamasya Vedasya Utpattim Vyakhyāsyati. Which Veda he is speaking about? Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda? No. This is Ayurveda. So when you say Vedotpatti, I am not speaking about Yajurveda, Rigveda, Utpatti. I am speaking about the Utpatti of Ayurveda. So, the Padartha here is you are clarifying the meaning of the word Veda. There you are clarifying the meaning of the word Mulahara. In the similar way, in whichever discipline you are working in, of course, there should be certain terminologies, jargons that you might have to use, but ensure that you clarify those words also. Apply this Tantrayukti called as why. Ultimately, why do you write a thesis? Why do you write? To show it to someone, others should read and apply, use it and find the benefit. So if it is not at all intelligible, why to write it at all? So hence, Padartha and Yoga. Yoga here doesn't mean Shirshasana, Pranayama, etc. Yoga means connecting the sentences. Anvaya should be proper. Sometimes in Shloka, what happens is, the subject, the verb, the adjectives, etc., because for certain metrical or prosody considerations, because the number of letters, etc., syllables are defined, certain words have to be put at a distance. Normally, I ate lunch. If these are close by, then the subject, object, verb, all the SVO, that is the structure which makes sense to us in understanding any sentence. If they are far apart from each other, because most of the traditional texts are in the form of shloka, sometimes the subject, the object, the verb may be apart from each other, removed apart from each other. If there is such a possibility in your own composition or in the commentary that you are writing on a particular text, then you should ensure that the anvaya is made. Yoga here essentially means paraphrasing. So making the sentence proper. If Padartha is about clarifying the meaning of the word that you chose to use, Yoga is about clarifying the sentences that you have used. Sometimes in scientific writing also, we have so many things to convey. Certain things would have come earlier, certain things would have come later. It is essential. See, how do you revise your draft? See, this can also be taken as tools for revising the language of your, how to revise. See, so sometimes you go and submit the draft to the guide. He says, go and revise it. What do I revise? How do I revise? You can use these Tantrayuktis to revise this thing, especially from the language dimension. Have I clarified the words? Have I clarified the sentences? So it is highly, means the utility of it need not be elaborated at all, more than this. So at the sentence, at the level, and Vyakhya is concept. So your words are good. Your sentences are also good. But the concept that is conveyed, it is still unintelligible. You are trying to say something, but what is that? It has not yet completely emerged. Or the gravity of what you are trying to speak, if it is not adequately expressed in 2 or 3 sentences, don't worry, go about explaining it. Dyuta nimittaha bhedaha papishtatamaha. In Kautilya Arthashastra, he says, among all the vices, means all the bad things, bad habits that a king can have, the baddest among it, baddest may not be an expression that you find, Papishtata, the most bad, okay, that will be an appropriate expression. The most bad vyasana, or the bad thing would be vice, would be gambling. See, the sentence is called, so Dyuta, Bhedaha, Papishtatamaha, all these are very clear. But how? how that gambling is a disastrous vice to have. That has to be elaborated. And so many examples are to be given. How it impacts your wealth, how it impacts your mental state, how it impacts the kingdom at large. All that, if it is not sufficiently adequately elaborated, even if your words are good, sentences are good, your job is still not done. So hence, in this process, you can also use nirvachanam. Nirvachanam means etymology. In clarifying, see, this padartha and nirvachanam can go together. Means in clarifying, see, normally the contextual meaning of word is explained by padartha, whereas nirvachanam helps in analyzing the meaning of the word. So what is the root, what is the prefix, what is the suffix, what is the original sense, what is the now acquired sense of this word, all that clarification is nirvachanam. So certain doubts, see, initially we discussed about Tantrayukti. What we did was essentially nirvachanam. What is the non-conventional sense? What is the intended etymological or grammatical or the compound related derivation? So that also helps in clarification. That's why I have put it after Vyakhya. So as a tool for Vyakhya, this can help, nirvachanam. And then of course, Upamanam and Nidarshanam are illustrations. So adequate illustrations can be given, and that too, wherever it is essential. Upamanam is a simile, and then Nidarshanam are examples. There are certain distinctions between Upamanam and Nidarshanam. I will let's see whether if I have the example I will clarify. So and then you have so you can use illustrations. Both the essence of Upamana and Nidarshanam is illustrations. So and then these clarifying the meaning of the word, meaning of the sentence, paraphrasing, using the etymology, illustrations, all these help in ultimately clarifying. So all this together, see the language, the important role all these put together play is clarification and explanation. So a PhD thesis, the language of a thesis should explain. How do I explain, sir? You can explain in these many ways. In these many ways you can explain. That's why I said anything you state, it is very well defined in Samskrita Shastra Parampara. When you speak about Indian research methodology, at the end of the course, you can summarize your learning in, if you memorize those 32 Tantrayuktis. If you remember those 32 Tantrayuktis, you have covered one full research methodology paper. Can you remember a research methodology book like that in the current English context? No, all these are unit-wise, subject-wise, etc. If you remember these 32 Tantrayuktis and if you were attentive in the class, then you have the 32 Tantrayuktis, the book, the chapter, methodology paper, everything is in your mind. So in that sense, that's the beauty. So when I said explain and clarify, in all these ways you can explain and clarify. And then imply. How to imply Vakya Shesha and Arthapatti. It is not that when I say open, what is the sentence complete? Open. See, when I look at that direction and open, then it simply means open the door. That's all. So you can, in certain expressions, if you can just limit your words, so that itself will help understand. Not necessary to state the obvious in words also. You can limit the number of words that you use. So, and this is a very simple example that I gave. See, in a chapter that describes about the health of a human being, Shiraf, Pani, Pada, etc. The example that is given is, then the head of whom are you talking about? A human being whose health is now being discussed. The head of, every time should you respond, write the head of a human being, fingers of a human being. No. So, Purushasya ityetat gamyate. So, that is Vakya Shesha. In the sense, this is sentence-wise implication. Means, Purusha is implied in the mind. Door is implied in the mind. So, in that sense, so in a science class, open your notebook. If the teacher says, which notebook you will open? Science notebook only you will open your science notebook. There is no need to say that. Certain things are implied. See, implication comes naturally to us. consciously you have to build it in your thesis. See, as I say, I had given a lecture and then finally said, sir, all that you have spoken is common sense. This is nothing new. See, everything is common sense. Of course, research methodology is common sense, but we don't use it. We think research as something great, but in the sense, ultimately it is common sense. See, I think I remember G.K. Chesterton. In my school, I studied a book, a lesson was there from G.K. Chesterton. He said, he's a famous author in English, of bygone times. Adventure wrongly considered is inconvenience. Adventure wrongly considered is inconvenience. Inconvenience rightly considered is adventure. So he gives the example of in those times London is flooded, and then I am a taxpayer, and then people are not the civic authorities are not maintaining all these things. This is inconvenience. But why do you consider it as an inconvenience? See, you need not go to Venice. Venice is there in the London itself. What is Venice? In Venice there are no roads. There is only water. So you go from one house to other house in a boat only. So in this way, what I was trying to say is implication. In the sense, you can imply so many things and implications will be very interesting that way. Okay, so this is word implication and this is concept implication. So words can also be implied, concepts can also be implied. They are very standard. This arthapatti is also considered a pramana. See, in epistemology, arthapatti is seen as a pramana. When you come to Tantrayukti, it becomes a tool for implying concepts by the intelligent use of the language. Means, what is that? The example is, Pino Devadattaha Divana Bhunkte. This is the example. Pino Devadattaha Divana Bhunkte. Devadatta, is there anyone with, sorry. This is to show. Sir certainly knows the meaning of the example and he will take it in the lighter sense. This is in the traditional, sir. You use it. Yes. So not this Devadatta. There is one person called Devadatta. So he is a fat or stout. But in daytime he does not eat. You leave it at that. Which means he eats at night. So that is a conceptual implication. This person eats at night. No need to say. In this way also you can make certain concepts appear in the mind. Because certain things may not be or need not be or would be dangerous to, see for example like this, to explicitly mention. So they can be made to appear in your mind. So that is arthapatti. So thus conceptually also certain things can appear in your mind if you mind to work with your language that way. And then finally swasamnya. I will come, sir. I'll certainly. See, actually, I wanted to see this artha. I will not leave without swasamnya. I will certainly explain. This arthapatti is not merely for the enjoyment of expression. Arthapatti has a therapeutic significance also. See, especially in disciplines like medical discipline. See this example. I should have given this example, sir. It would have been a more serious this thing. Odanam bhokshe ityukte arthad apannam bhavati nayam pipasuhu yavagumiti. See, some patient is lying down. Means he is there or he is in the process of healing. You try to feed him with yavagu. Yavagu means porridge. Hey, your health has this thing. So you should only eat porridge. Whenever we fall ill in the house, immediately we are fed with bread and milk. Nothing else. No. Nothing else you should eat. No, when the person has improved. See, he says, Odanam bhokshe. Now I am feeling better. I can eat. See, and the person who is ill, he cannot speak more also. He can only give hints. So a physician should take, or a person who is there, attendant, should understand the implication. Oh, this person currently, it seems, since till yesterday he was happily accepting the porridge. Today he says, I can eat rice, which means don't pressurize me with porridge. I want to improve. I want to see how I am developing. So this also has a therapeutic implication where you closely observe the expression and grasp the implication so that you can treat the patient better. So at that stage he may not elaborate so many things. Those implications has to be grasped, and that he has built in his text. Sushruta Acharya has built, that is a training for the doctor or the people, the attendants especially. So hence this is very important. And now we come to, so we saw elaboration, we saw conceptual and verbal implication, and finally invent. So paraihi asammitaha shabdaha swasamjna asadharanaha paraihi anyashastraihi. A word that is not known or not measured, not understood by other shastras, which means a creation, a original creation of your own. Whenever you are you can come up with a new word for your own discipline. See, how can you come at, as I earlier already have elaborated upon it, how will you arrive, why would you need a new word whenever there is a new discovery, new invention? So a geologist digs and he understands that, oh, certain new things have emerged. So let us give us this particular name. So bosons are given. After bosons is a particle. So given after the name of Bose. So it didn't exist earlier. He understood that particular phenomenon, and so it was given as boson. So in this way, so those are certain new things you invent. The word will come, and the word is, the concept emerges first, and then the words are added to it. So you can do it. So this is a hint. See, naturally it happens. For a researcher, it is a guideline. So in the process of your research, if you stumble upon, if you develop or invent or discover something new, don't hesitate to create a new word for it. You can create it. So this is the confidence. This is the orientation. This is the possibilities that are opened up for a researcher. Hey, no, you are not qualified to write all these things. Stick to the, no. You can break the frontiers of research and go ahead and do more research and bring in new terminologies. So that's what, that is the very existence of swa samjna. Your terminology. Samjna is terminology. Swa means your. So Kautilya has created swasamjna. Charaka has created swasamjna. See, what is the work of Kautilya? He is about acquisition of land, administering of land, expanding of the land area, especially in the context of country. So he says, as an example to swasamjna, Kautilya has invented added two words to the vocabulary of Sanskrita. Bhumyantara, bhumyekantara. These are the two terms. What is the meaning of bhumyanta? Other than Kautilya, no one has used. For the very first time, Kautilya has given these two terms. We know Kautilya as a person of Arthashastra. He has also contributed to vocabulary by his study of the discipline. What is bhumyantara? Swabhumi avyavahita bhumihi. My neighboring land. If I want to, my neighboring land. No, this is a longer expression. Can I come up with one terminology? Bhumyantara. So anything that is related to adjacent land, if I want to address, I will simply say Bhumyantara. And maybe, so in the entire Vyavahara, the entire descriptions of Kautilya Arthashastra, he limits it to the expression Bhumyantara. And similarly, Bhumyekantara, Deshena Ekena Vyavahita Bhumihi. My land is there. There is a neighbor and there is an adjacent land. If you want to address that adjacent land, what is the terminology? Bhumyekantara. So, probably Bhumyantara is not a new expression, neighbor is not a new expression, but Bhumyekantara is a newer expression. So, in the context of Bhumyekantara, Bhumyantara also comes into the picture. So hence, so he says something about the next to the neighbor. For that he uses the term Bhum Ekantara, which is the original contribution of Kautilya. Now let's come to Charaka. So we earlier spoke about fomentation, that is a sweat therapy. If sweat is created, it is also a kind of therapy to overcome Jwara Chikitsa. Under Jwara Chikitsa, sweat is also used. So in that case, certain the heated, so he understood or he developed certain methodologies to create that sweat. So for that he created underground cellars. So Charaka. So he uses various methodologies to bring about that sweating. So he tried that sweating therapy by creating physically First he created an underground cellar and then made a person lie down there, and then that sweating happened, and then that person is cured. Curing has happened. What are you going to call this underground cellar as? Jayantaka. He gave the terminology Jayantaka. And then similarly, making a person not necessarily an underground cellar, you create a kind of a structure over the ground itself, but you paste it with cow dung on all sides. Even within the structure, if a person lies down, he will sweat, and that also cures a person. So what do you call a structure smeared with dung? Holaka. So the treatment he created first, the terminology came later. So Jayantaka, Holaka, all these are the terminologies that followed the invention. They followed the treatment invention protocol. So in that sense, these are Swasamjnas of Charaka. So hence, this is how you invent and you make your language more interesting. Yes, huh?
Is he giving the nirvana of that word he created?
It should be. I have not gone into it. It will be there. Are very clear. Whereas Jayantaka, see, sometimes what happens is, these acharyas also take into consideration certain folk expressions also. So that might also have played a role in that terminology. As I am not aware of the etymology of Jayantaka and Holaka, I cannot comment upon that. We can of course look into the dictionary etymological this thing. But these are the examples cited for Swasamjna in Charaka Samhita. So now, thus we have completed the topic as such. Now I just want to give certain observations finally about Tantrayukti. So, is nuclear energy described in the Vedas? See, Vedas are not, in the sense, were not intended for that. Means, Vedahi yajñartham abhipravrittaha. For yajna prakriya is the mainstay. How to describe, what are the various devatas, how to do the yajna. I don't deny that there may be certain initial thoughts about nuclear thoughts or kanada, all those nuclear thought and atoms and other descriptions might be there. It is only gramam gachanna trinam sprishati. Means it may have been expressed by the rishis. See, rishis, they know everything, but still they had a focus in stating these are mantras in this context. These are mantras for this purpose. All that is well defined. If you find certain new insights, etc., that's a derivation. It's an implication or kind of a not a primary meaning that it wanted to convey. So why I am saying that is, Tantrayukti is not such a derivative knowledge. It is meant as a methodology. See, normally, in Indian Science Congress, certain things happened. So people claimed that so many claims are foisted upon Indian knowledge systems. Means it may be a derivation or an indirect implication or a derivation from certain mainstream or certain things which are stated for a different purpose. Tantrayukti certainly is not like that. It is stated for some purpose. It is interpreted for some other purpose. See, in that sense, Tantrayukti was stated as a research methodology, and we are presenting Tantrayukti as a research methodology only. We are not deriving something out of Tantra. So it's a direct meant purpose. So that's why in Kautilya Arthashastra we see Adhiyanopi Shastrani Tantrayuktya not Kautilya Arthashastra, Charaka Samhita. Adhiyanopi Shastrani Tantrayuktya Vinabhishak Nadhigacchati Shastrarthan Artham Bhagyakshaye Yatha. Means a person who studies various shastras. What are you reading? Currently I am reading Kautilya Arthashastra. What will you be reading? Next I will read Charaka Samhita. Next I will read Charuvaka. Then I will... See, no use in reading without knowing the yuktis is of no avail. Means, if you without reading pages and pages together, without understanding the workings of the mind of the author. See, how do you know the working of the mind of the author? If you are aware of the methodological devices, you can, even by reading 2 lines, you can know what is going to be stated in the entire passage. So similarly, if you are, see, Tantrayukti actually is an empowering tool. So if you are empowered with your Tantrayukti, then you can confidently approach both modern and traditional subjects with equal confidence. This is not a overclaim. This is what it is. As all the descriptions we have all together discussed, we can understand this lays out the fundamentals of all disciplines of knowledge. So hence, merely factually reading any discipline without getting into the workings and approaches and methodologies is not going to help a person. So hence it is very essential that one studies the methodology, framework, approach, and based on that how it is expressed in various so many words. If you understand, that is the right way. And then ekasminna piyasyeha, this is what I earlier mentioned in one of the individual conversations. Ekasminna piyasyeha shastre labdhaspadamati sa shastram anyadapyashu yuktignatvat prabudhyate. This is also from Charaka Samhita. Study one discipline. Go to the depths of the methodological approaches in that. If you understand that, based on your grasp of the methodological approach, you can pursue other disciplines in the same way. For preparing for one of my papers on Shalaka Pariksha Vidhanam, I had an opportunity to discuss with a great scholar, Manidravada Shastriji. So he said that he's a great scholar of Vedanta and Mimamsa. So he told me that, I have recorded in my paper also, that earlier in Kashi, when the Pandits examined any person, they would examine, okay, what subject have you come for examination? Vyakarana. Okay, come on, sit down. So they will go to such depths that they will understand whether he has grasped the methodological aspects. What are the cornerstones? What is the scaffolding upon which the entire Shastra rests, or kind of the structure and the support structure, etc. for this Shastra? Has this person understand this? So if that is, they will thoroughly analyze, then how will they certify him? This person has an extraordinary command on Vyakarana. On his own, now he can pursue any other discipline. So it is a pervasive certificate they used to give by going to the depths of one particular Shastra. So hence, one Shastra you study, but go to the depths of it. By what is the meaning of going to the depth of a Shastra? Understanding the methodology, Tantrayukti. If you know that, you know every other discipline. So hence, just to, how many, so I'll just finish in another 5 minutes. I think I have to catch a flight also. I'll finish now. See, the thing is, one more thing is, we human beings always need role models. In Yoga Sutra also, how to attain the focus of the mind, Maitri, Karuna, Mudito, Pekshanam, Prachardhana, Vidharana, Abhyamba, Pranasa, emotional tools are given, and then Pranayama related details are given to focus your mind. So one of the tools is Vitaraga Vishayam Vachittam. Think about certain Mahatmas, or know about certain people who have, so how to attain Vairagya? How to attain Vairagya? Read about the lives of people who have attained Vairagya. So you can develop the dispassion by pranayama and other things also, but one of the most potent ways of attaining Vairagya is looking at role models. Ashuka, Vyasa, and great other Sadashiva Brahmendra. All these people have attained Vairagya. Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. If you have role models, if there are precedents, we think that it is possible. So many concepts about Tantrayukti has been spoken. Has it Are there people who have used it earlier? That question, the history of utilization is also needed. Across disciplines, Tantrayukti was a living methodological tool for more than a decade, more than a millennia and a half. So, Kautilya Arthashastra in polity, Nyaya Sutra Bhashyam, Yukti Deepika in Sankhya, and of course, in this list, Acharya Shankara has used one Yukti, and then in Ayurveda, Charaka Sushruta Ashtanga Hridaya, and then in Purana, in Vishnudharmottara Purana, there is reference. There are independent works like Tantrayukti Vichara and Tantrayukti, and then in Tantra Shastra itself, you have Ishvara Pratyavijñā Vivritti Vimarshani, Swachhanda Tantram, Vamakeshwari Mata Vivaranam. Note the chronology here. So, from 500 BCE till 12th century CE, to when I completed my thesis. So this much of textual references are available. So more than a millennia and a half of utilization of either all the yuktis or a few yuktis or at least one yukti. You find references in Sanskrit. So many disciplines have also used. And one more thing, as I indicated in one of the earlier mentions, it is not limited only to Samskrita. We are doing an Indian research methodology. Bharatiya Shodha Paddhati. Bharatiya is not limited only to Samskrita. Samskrita, of course, is integral, essential, important, critical, central. But along with that, other languages, other literary traditions are also there. In Tamil, also you have 1900 years of history of utilization of Tantrayukti, right from Tolkappiyam till Swaminatham, written in 1800 CE. All these texts have utilized Tantrayukti, Tandira Uttigal or Uttigal. So such expression is there. So not only that, so it also has, Tamil tradition also has Tantra Gunas and Tantra Doshas. Samskrita is a major literary tradition in the Bharatiya Parampara. Tamil is a major critical tradition of Bharatiya Parampara. Pali is also a major linguistic tradition. There also you have this Neti Prakarana, Petakopadesha. A.K. Wardner in his book called Indian Buddhism, he observes that all the elaborations that you find in Tantrayukti approaches methodology, it seems to have been inspired by the Tantrayukti methodology, he mentions. So I have elaborated upon this Pali, Tamil in my thesis, while I have compared it with Kautilya Arthashastra's treatment. So hence, it is really a Bharatiya. When you say Bharatiya, it includes three major linguistic traditions of Samskrita, Tamil, Pali. So all these have influenced, utilized, used, so this Tantrayukti. So, and one more thing interestingly, I left out the spatial spread. See, the temporal, subject-wise spread of Tantrayukti I mentioned. In polity, philosophy, etc., Ayurveda, etc. Time also you saw from 500 BCE to 12th century, the time is there. And then the spatial spread. Which area is this Kautilya Arthashastra connected to? Kautilya Arthashastra. Kautilya. Takshashila. Mostly we associate with Takshashila, the Mauryan, if I am not wrong. So, that region. So, there, that text. And if you come to Tantrayukti Vichara in 900 CE, it is by Neela Megha Bhishak from Kerala. So, and one more thing, all these Tantra texts, Ishvara Pratyabhijñā, Swachhanda Tantram, Vamakeshwari Mata belong to Kerala, Kashmir Shaivism. So, hence from Kashmir, Takshashila to Kerala. So, there is a spread. And also Tamil Nadu, especially when Tolkappiyam, etc. have utilized. So, from Kashmir to Kerala, you have a spatial spread. So, the real Bharatiya Parampara in spatial dimension also. In the subject, linguistically, this is a Bharatiya Parampara. Spatially also, it is a Bharatiya Anusandhana Paddhati. And also in time also, it has lot of spread. So, you have thousands of, to sum up, you have thousands of years of utilization. So, across languages, disciplines, geographical location. And then it is, can we call it as a comprehensive? Because it deals with content, structure and language. And one more thing, this is intrinsic to the tradition. All this also implies this research methodology is intrinsic. How can you study an indigenous subject with an imported methodology? And more than that, if you don't have any, of course you can go for import, or else it will be like importing garments from Manchester. Well, you here itself can produce khadi vastra. So our khadi vastra here is Tantrayukti. Why do you import from Manchester? So hence intrinsics to the tradition. While Tantrayukti has all these things, then it should have been included as a paper. Slowly now it is happening. In the last decade, it is slowly happening. We have workshops, wonderful change of atmosphere is happening. And as I said, it could be a dimension in research methodology. It can be an evaluation tool for PhD thesis. And also, of course, people can use this as guidelines for peer-reviewed article. Hey, stick on to the Tantrayukti methodology. Your paper will be evaluated based on this. You can very well put. We have so many Bharatiya Shodha Patrikas. But how many Shodha Patrikas have Tantrayukti as a guidelines protocol? No. So we can bring in Atmanirbharata. It's not only Atmanirbharata, pride element. Of course, that element is there. This is also intrinsic to the tradition, the terminology, the expression, the etymology, the explanation of it. All this will be very close to what is expressed in the methodology. Need not see an external thing into this. But as the philosophy goes, as Vivekananda said, best of the West with the best of the East. We will take both together, but we have never looked into, we have only looked at best of the West. This is the best of Bharat. Best of the East, of course, best of Bharat, why not? So one thing is negligence, westward gaze. That's always there in the academia. But there are some serious internal problems also in Tantrayukti. See, there is intra-text, inter-text, inter-tradition problems in arriving at one grand document of Tantrayukti. As I said, there is a Tamil tradition of Tantrayukti. There is a Sanskrit tradition of Tantrayukti. There is a Pali tradition of Tantrayukti. You have to integrate this. And even as I said, in Charaka Samhita, there are 3 or 4 commentators. Each of them interpret those Tantrayuktis in a different manner. So there is a intertext consolidation that needs to happen. And then subject. For example, you have to compare, you have to do there is a particular expression for that. You should compare and contrast the Kautilya Tantrayukti with the Charaka Tantrayukti. Charaka Tantrayukti with some other text. So, interlingual comparison needs to happen. And then, so between the linguistic traditions also, so all this, there is a lot of work. See, you can use Tantrayukti for your thesis is one thing. Tantrayukti itself can be your area of work is another wonderful area that is opening up. So you can contribute in solving intra-text problems or inter-text problem in the same tradition or inter-tradition inconsistencies or things. So we can arrive at a grand document of Tantrayukti. That's a potential. At least some 50 PhDs can be done based on this. So there is one Jean-Luc Chevillard who has compared the Tamil and Samskrita Tantrayuktis. At the end he says, it's only by painstaking comparison of individual glosses, and this is true in Tamil tradition also. For one Tolkapiyam, the ancient text, there are 4 or 5 commentaries. Each of the commentator has interpreted it in different way, illustrated it also uniquely. So hence there is a lot of potential. While it can be seen as a challenge, it can also be seen as a potential for lot of work. So hence, it's only by painstaking comparison of individual glosses for Tantrayukti, making extended use of many other works, that one can hope to finally discover the lost bridges. And one more important thing is, each of these linguistic traditions were bridged by Tantrayukti. Tantrayukti was the Vichara Setu, was the conceptual bridge that connected all these linguistic traditions. If Tantrayukti we have forgotten, the bridges between the tradition is lost. See, that Westerner, that Frenchman knew that there existed a Vichara Setu between all these. We have forgotten. We have to rediscover those lost bridges that have linked Tamil and Sanskrit technical literatures for a long time. In his article on Tamil, he says this. So it has a pan-Indian implication in the intellectual tradition. So hence, both for the current research needs and also to study the past intellectual contributions of India, irrespective of the linguistic traditions, it is very essential that we take Tantrayuktis more seriously. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. The space is now open for questions.
Sir, I have a question. So, how is the question of ethics in research addressed by the doctrine of Tantrayukti? See, we have this curriculum for research methodology for PhD. Na? We have a parallel course suggested by UGC called research ethics. So, how is this topic too much introduced by the concept of Tantrayukti?
One thing is, the Apadesha Tantrayukti itself is see, you quote others, name others. While quoting others, you should give just the Barhaspatya, Aushanasa, etc. So, an ethics is inbuilt within that. And then, as I said, Tantrayukti is hardcore content, structure, language dimension. So, if you want to add an ethical dimension, from Upanishads, as I said, as I already said, that this is an elastic tradition, you can bring in all those ethical dimension if of course, and one more thing, I am not forcefully try to interpret, no, Tantrayukti involves ethics also, no, I will not say that. If it is not there, the tradition is already elastic, include that also. And that can be included from the Upanishads. If you want to include, go to the Upanishadic literature, go to the other approaches in the tradition and bring that ethical dimension also within this. And one more thing, all our research pursuits are Satyanveshanam, Satyameva Jayatena Nritam, Satyasya Pantha Vitato Devayanaha. So, the ultimate goal is also Satyanveshanam, and in our day-to-day transaction also, Satya is always there. Ahimsa, Hatya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, all this is well built within our tradition also. So, see, one more basic answer that can be given is that there is no secular spiritual divide in our tradition. The scientists are not spiritual. They are only scientists. Such a thing never existed. Everyone came under the framework of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. See, this is the purushartha. To achieve my purushartha, I am a scientist. To achieve my purushartha, I am a vaidya. To achieve my purushartha, I am a teacher. But still, I am governed by the principle of dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So, whether it is a personal life or whether it is your academic pursuit, dharma is already there. If dharma is there, what better ethics can always be there. So, seeing ethics as a different component in research is again non-indigenous, non-intrinsic approach. Or, as I said, no, we need a chapter on this. Okay, have a chapter based on the Upanishads.
Yeah, sir. Hello. So actually this is really baffling for me to know that such a comprehensive methodology existed in our tradition, and there may be some limitations to the methodology I use, like I'll say I use some data, like some years of data, like I mentioned that in the limitations of the of my study. So like, is it like can I include it under the Tantra dosha?
See, I didn't give the example of the Adhikarana Tantrayukti. Please sit down. So, in Adhikarana Tantrayukti itself, the scope is very well defined. The title itself should, by implication, provide the limitation. I will say how Kautilya has provided the limitation, or kind of the scope. I will not say limitation. He has defined the scope. If you define the scope, then what is not included in it is implied. So, Prithivyaha, Labhe, Palane, this is Kautilya's Adhikarana Tantrayukti illustration. Prithivyaha labhe palane yavanti arthashastrani purvacharyehi prayuktani tani samhritya ekam idam arthashastram kritam. This is how he defines it. Which means, Arthashastra means acquiring land and governing the land. Okay, about this so many people have already spoken. What is new? So then he says that Yavanti Arthashastrani Purvacharyehi Prastutani. Very many earlier acharyas have spoken about this topic. Tani Samhritya Ekam Idam Arthashastram Kritam. I have collected all their views, organized them systematically and presented it as one compendium of knowledge. So he has defined the scope of his work, which means he is not going out on to write something new. It is an analytical work of the existing topic. So what you cannot find is newer and newer additions or newer dimensions you may not expect. You can expect a comprehensive harmonization of thought among the existing wisdom. So the limitations of not adding something new or something kind of critical is mentioned here. So again, as I said, we have to, in my knowledge, limitation dimension is not explicitly mentioned. Again, the doctrine is open to newer terminologies.
One more question, please. Yesterday we were talking about statistics and also many was mentioning that in Arthashastra there is mention of some data and all. So is there any mention about the data, numerical data? In Arthashastra he also Kautilya talks about the taxes and trade, export, imports and all. So is there any mention about data aspect? Just numerical data. This is all the.
I'm not going into because I am not qualified to speak about data or statistics, because that domain, I am not of that domain. But one thing I can say, that Kautilya was aware of data and organizing data. I gave an example, number of ministers, organize the number of ministers, the data about that, and then present your conclusion later. So collecting data, organizing data dimension, we can say. More than that, one has to explore. I have not looked into Kautilya Arthashastra from a data perspective or statistic perspective. It's quite possible. Or in the Vedic literature, where there are a lot of mentions, Ekachame, Tisrachame, Panchachame, Saptachame, Navachame, Ekadashachame, all those numbers, numerical data and all those things you can find in the Vedas.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, actually, first of all, I want to thank you for taking a multiple session. The second session. And you yourself has applied some sort of Tantrayukti in presenting the theme. So we were clear in that presentation also. And you are not at all tired of speaking the subject. That shows your interest also. Thank you for that. And I have just two questions. First is whether this Tantrayukti, Tantra Dosha or Tantra Guna include the fallacy, logic, syllogism, etc. Anything like that. That's the first question.
Syllogism is separate.
Okay.
5-step syllogism, pratignya hetu, udaharana, upanigam is separate.
Fallacies and all? Yeah? They are not mentioned.
Fallacies, no, that is Tantra Doshas or fallacies.
Oh, okay.
Tantra Doshas or fallacies.
Okay. Sir, my second question is not actually a question. See, you told about researching using the methodology and researching on the methodology, right? So my research topic is Vitanda.
Super.
So, you are the only one from whom I heard that you can't just demolish Vitanda. It has some positive uses. So whenever I spoke about my research topic here and there, people were just, oh, you are a Vaitandika, so that's why you are always wanting to argue and all. So my question is, somebody who is much into the argumentation, fallacy, presentation of your content, see, there is a fault, this is a fault. So people are not much interested in accepting them. I feel this not in Indian tradition, but in Western tradition also. Maybe among the researchers and students, when they write the thesis and we are trying to point out the faults like fallacies and all, they feel that it's not necessary. Why are you looking into those things? You can just take the content now. So that is why logic as a paper is there. That is why research methodology or something like that should be there. So I think it's the attitude in us. Maybe in this workshop we are accepting this thing just to say that our Indian tradition has this much knowledge about Tantrayuktis and all. But it is not sure that we will be applying the same because we feel tired of applying all these rules. We just have to somehow present the content. So how do you feel this, and how your interest in such methodology? Can you just share some experience like that?
Means I have to answer for half an hour. The point is about dosha is intrinsically our tradition respects those who find dosha. Vidwan vipaschit doshagnyah. The scholar's synonym itself is a doshagnya, who knows mistakes, his and others. So doshagnyah. And but doshaikadrik purobhagi nikritas tvanrujushataha means only a doshaikadrik means a person only who looks at the mistakes, that is also a problem. Means the one who knows the fallacies and knows to eradicate, he is a vidwan. A person who only looks at dosha, he is not considered as a respectable person. And then there is an expression, popular expression, unknown meaning, the word chhatra. What is the meaning of the word chhatra? That is the translation of it, student. What is the derivation of it, chhatra? Chhatraha chadayati acharyagata doshan iti. A student is a person who moves close with the teacher and knows all his mistakes. So but he will not reveal the mistakes of the teacher. See, the point is, you have learnt 90 things from him. You know 10 things. And the teacher also accepts. Yanyanavadyani karmani tani sevitavyani no itarani yanyasmakagam sucharitani tani tvajopasyani no itarani. It's a Vedic injunction also. Whatever you have done good, please follow that. Wherever we have made a mistake or there is a possibility of misinterpretation, don't take that path. So in that sense, our tradition is open in having the role of dosha is very important. If anyone runs away from dosha, he is not a shastrajna. So that's why you have Shatadushani also. There is a text called Shatadushani. 100 mistakes I will point out in your text. Someone wrote a text called Shatadushani. 100 mistakes he has compiled and written. So hence the tradition in as such is open. And one more, the second, so this is an objective response. When you come to a subjective thing, how do you got interested into it? I was not interested. I was pushed into the subject and then the subject later pulled me. So in that sense, as I spoke more and then as with this topic I could relate with, I thought that when I reached out to people with this topic, they found it useful. Then I thought I should be very honest in going deeper into what I am doing. So I tried to do to the honest level what I can share. So this is how, there is a pull-push approach which got me into this subject. Tantrayukti only. A study, the doctrine of Tantrayukti, a study, a comparison of Kautilya Arthashastra and Tolkapiyam.
Sir, we have one last question.
Yes, yeah.
This is in continuation with Mr. Anirudh's limitations question.
Sir.
Actually, you have explained about the scope, but the limitations, I think what he is intended to just inquire is, in normal research, we have the limitations like resources, like time and money, and then also technical resources, like accessibility to, like in our literature, accessibility to the original grandhas or talapatras or something like that. This can be correlated to any of the Tantrayukti, or we have to this.
Sir, there are three mistakes. That is Lakshana Dosha Trayam. They say avyapti, ativyapti, asambhava. You can take the sambhava possibility. See, asambhava means impossible. Oh. So sambhava means whatever is possible, whatever is probable, whatever is a person, whatever for which material and resources, as you said, whatever for which materials and resources are available, only upon that we can work on. So in that sense, again, it may not be an explicit, and at this point of time I may not remember when such an elaborate framework about research and this thing has been explained. It should certainly be there. I will take this as a question for my research and then I will maybe come up with a response, a detailed direct response to it in due course.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for imparting a thorough knowledge, a thorough understanding of Tantrayukti, especially within a constrained time limit. Now, moving on to the next program, that is felicitation program. I would like to request Professor J.S. Prasad, sir, to felicitate sir.
Sir. Excellent. Okay. Namaskara, sir. Thank you, sir.
Once again, a huge round of applause for